Li Moying didn't even bother casting her a look as he shifted his gaze back towards Mo Yi and Mo chiding them sternly. You can't even do such a small matter properly. What use do I have you for? The sweat on the two shadow guards' foreheads dripped down along their necklines as they lowered their heads, not daring to say a single word. Murong Fei looked complacent as she stared at Mo Yi and Mo thinking, who dared to let them obstruct her? Serves them right that they've gotten their lesson now? She felt that these two were lectured too little, and in order to make them understand her prowess, she stood by the side of Li Moying, snitching on them. Eldest senior brother, I've come to look for you, specially knowing that you had a relapse several days ago. It's just too dangerous, so I think your internal injury is rather serious, right? Look, this is the 1000-year rain ginseng chicken soup that I specially prepared for you to aid in your recovery. These two blind fellows actually dared to block my way. They simply don't have any respect for you. She intentionally suppressed her tone, making herself sound sweet as she talked, pretending to wipe a tear off the corner of her eye, putting on an act which looked like she was bullied by someone. When Mo heard the misrepresentation, he was so angry that he almost jumped at her. It was Mo Yi who was stopping him from behind. When Li Moying heard that, he cast his glance onto her, but his words turned out to be, Mo Yi, Mo I'll give you a chance to redeem yourselves. Send eldest Miss Murong back to her own cabin and make her stay inside to cultivate properly, and stop heading outside. If I see her again, then the two of you need not follow me anymore. When Mo Yi and Mo heard that, they shivered and hastily replied, Yes, your subordinate obeys. We will definitely get this matter settled. Saying that, the both of them went up and pulled Murong Fei. Murong Fei stared at them in disbelief and tried to shake them off as she cried out loudly, Eldest senior brother, what do you mean by that? I am here specially to deliver the soup to you. Li Moying threw a chilly glance at her as he gave a cold growl from the back of his throat. What do I mean? Let me ask you, who did you say earlier was a little slut? Murong Fei was tongue-tied. She had not expected Li Moying to hear what she said outside and immediately felt extremely embarrassed. But she felt that she didn't scolded her wrongly. Only that she usually appeared as a refined young lady in front of Li Moying, and now he heard her scolding vulgarities so that damaged her image. Li Moying coldly replied, Bai Ruoli is the best girl who I've met, so what right do you have to use such a term on her? Murong Fei was filled with grievance as she cried out in dissatisfaction, Eldest senior brother, how could you say that? I've heard the others talk about it, that Bai Ruoli and the other men have something going on and even caught red-handed by you. Which was why you ditched her, right? This kind of wanton and unconservative slew. 8. Murong Fei was talking halfway when she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her chest, and upon a WA sound, she spat out a mouthful of blood. Li Moying couldn't take it when he heard how she insulted Huang Yueli, and the might from his surroundings was unleashed as it struck out towards Murong Fei. Even though Murong Fei was a 6th-stage realm practitioner, but in front of Li Moying, she had no sliver of a chance to resist against him. Just one gaze from him was enough to quake her chest into an unbearable pain as all the bones in her entire body seemed to be crushed immediately. Murong Fei kept trembling and she was almost going to fall limp onto the ground. At this moment, a chilly feeling ran down from the back of her spine. You can also listen on. She had always knew that Li Moying was very strong, but it was only until now that she discovered that she had underestimated him. The pressure which Li Moying had unleashed was not like an ordinary 7th-stage realm practitioner. Even with her father Murong De's imposing manner, he could not be compared to Li Moying at all. In the daze, an icy cold voice echoed into her ears. Murong Fei, remember this clearly. No matter how Bai Ruoli is, it's not up to you to criticize her. Even if she's not my fiancé, I will still protect her for life. Don't even dream about having any chance to hurt her. If I hear you say one more bad thing about her, don't blame me for not giving your father any face. Once the sentence was laid, Murong Fei suddenly felt the powerful aura pressure disappeared instantly. She fell limp onto the ground, her inner heart filled with immense terror, not daring to say a single word. When Mo Yi and Mo came up to drag her away, she totally lost all energy to resist and was dragged back to her room directly. It was until a quarter of an hour later when she finally regained her senses. Recalling Li Moying's stern and ruthless look, She was filled with love and admiration even though she was stricken with terror. Eldest senior brother, he really was very powerful, too powerful. In soaring heaven's continent, such an exceptional abled practitioner would make others revere him, winning all the ladies' admiration. Li Moying's ability was much stronger than her imagination, and that increased Murong Fei's determination to win his heart. If a man like Li Moying could become her husband, she would become the envy of many young lady. In future for Li Moying becomes a 9th stage realm top expert, was a matter of fact. With his pitilessly handsome looks, having such a husband was a matchless glory. She absolutely cannot let go of this man. Although Li Moying only had Bai Ruoli in his heart now, hadn't the two of them broken up? She had lots of chances now to make Li Moying have a change of heart. But, as long as that little slut lived, she was still a disaster. There was no guarantee that eldest senior brother would reignite his feelings for her. If only she could remain behind in Celestial Light Academy. Murong Fei suddenly recalled something when she thought of this, and her eyes widened. Right, so that's the case. I was still thinking why eldest senior brother would suddenly think of me and brought me up the flying ship back to the sec. So, he's worried that after he left, I will bring harm to that little slut. No wonder. After I boarded the flying ship, he paid no attention to me at all. Murong Fei had originally thought that Li Moying brought her back to the sect and did not mention Huang Yueli was because he finally realized her good point. In the end, after they boarded the ship, Li Moying refused to even meet up with her and had been cultivating in the cabin alone. So she had misunderstood. Li Moying's thoughts were still on that woman. After Murong Fei thought it through, she was so jealous that she was going insane. Little slut, don't even think of trying to stand in between eldest senior brother and me. Eldest senior brother is mine and you're not worthy of him. Humph, don't think that after I left Celestial Light Academy, I can't do anything to you. Murong Fei's face slowly revealed a sinister smile. Luckily, I'm not the only one who wants to claim your life. And I've already made prior preparations. Eldest senior brother, you haven't thought of this, right? Although you've made me stay by your side, but your little lover still must die. You can also listen on. After Huang Yueli left Celestial Light Academy, she first went to Sky Cloud City's market area preparing to buy a horse for traveling. But when she was walking on the streets, she suddenly felt that something was amiss, as though someone was looking at her with ill intentions. Huang Yueli swiftly turned her head but could only see passing pedestrians behind her, and every one of them seemed very ordinary, so it wasn't possible to find any suspicious characters. She frowned as she silently turned on to high alert mode. She walked into the stable and quickly picked a dark lighting stead and told the stable's footbear, "I want this horse, how much does it cost?" The footstep saw someone picking the most expensive horse in the stable and was initially overjoyed, but when he saw clearly that the young lady who was standing in front of him only looked 14 to 15 years old, his face crashed. He spoke out in a bad mood, "Miss, this horse isn't suitable for you. It's better that you take a look over that side." Huang Yueli frowned, "I'm asking how much does this horse cost?" The footboy rolled his eyes at her and said, "Miss, do you know what horse is this?" "The Dark Lightning Stead, it's a 3rd-tier magical beast. It can travel 5,000 miles a day and its price is something unimaginable for you. Since you can't afford it, then why are you asking so much for? Wasting our time. It's better that you go over to that time and look at those ordinary horses." He waved his hand as though swatting houseflies, hoping to shoo Huang Yueli away. Huang Yueli's face sunk as an unpleasant feeling arose within her heart. This was simply looking down on her, looked like her age brought about this problem. Furthermore, in order to rush on the journey, she was dressed more casually than usual, which resulted in the market's footboy giving her such expressions. Huang Yueli didn't say much and took out a palm-size badge from her realm ring as she slowly pinned it onto her chest. Footboy originally wasn't paying attention and added on some cynical remarks, "Miss, what are you bringing out? Your family's treasure to buy this horse. Looks nothing especially." Saying that, he suddenly saw the badge on Huang Yueli's chest clearly as his eyes opened wide, as though he had seen a ghost, and he became tongue-tied. This Armament Master's badge? Why? You can't recognize this. But, this, how is this possible? You're just 14 or 15 years old. Huang Yueli sneered. Why not? I think no one dares to fabricate an armament master's badge, right? Do you think that a certified armament master is not able to afford a horse? Footboar was so scared that he almost knelt down in front of her. The Armament Guild's badge was absolutely not a fake. Because this badge itself was a high-leveled profound armament, and other than the designated master, other people would not be able to pin it on their chests. An armament master's position in the entire Soaring Heavens continent was incomparably valuable, and this armament master in front of him was so young. That meant that she must be some highly valued super genius in the Armament Guild. This kind of people was not someone who a small footballer like him, who was working in a stable, could afford to offend. They just needed to say one word and he would lose his job. No, of course not. This master, it's me who has eyes but cannot see properly. Please, will you be appeased? The stable had quite a number of other customers. The minute Huang Yueli took out her armament master badge, it immediately attracted a bustle. A valuable armament master personally visiting the stable to buy a horse, that was a rare sight. You can also listen on. The stable's boss quickly heard the news, and when he came over, he immediately and politely lowered his head to show his apology towards Huang Yueli. Respectable master, please accept my sincere apologies. I know this has affected your mood and this is our responsibility, so we hope you will be understanding. As he was saying that, he stared fiercely at the footboar. The footboar's hair was drenched in sweat and he cowered in one corner, trembling with fear, as he cried out in agony in his heart. He usually treated people according to his observation, and a young lady like Huang Yueli was generally various academy students and were mostly from the countryside. So they weren't able to afford any good horses. Since he didn't earn much from them, he usually treated them impolitely. Whoever knew that he would kick onto a piece of steel today? This ordinary-looking young lady, actually was an armament master? Sky Cloud City actually has such a young armament master? Recalling what he said earlier, the footbear couldn't wait to just kill himself by throwing himself into the wall. He actually ridiculed an armament master not being able to afford a horse. Who didn't knew that armament masters were the most profitable occupation in the entire Soaring Heavens continent? Huang Yueli raised her lower jaw slightly as she spoke out in an aloof tone. You're this stable's boss? I had originally saw your stable was the largest in the entire market, so I came over and take a look. Looks like I'm too naive. Your horses here are too high class and I cannot afford to buy one. I think I better visit elsewhere to take a look. Saying that, she raised her feet and wanted to leave. The boss broke out in sweat and hurriedly stopped her as he said anxiously, No, master, you're mistaken. Our horses are one of the best in Sky Cloud City, and how could a valuable guest like you not be able to afford it? It's this fellow who doesn't know how to talk. Master, please don't leave. Whichever horse you've taken a fancy to, let me know and I'll give you a 40% discount. I'll give you a 40% discount. What joke was that? The shop finally had such a valuable guest, and even an armament master came to purchase a steed at his stable. If that spread, that would be a living advertisement, so how could he miss out on such a good chance? Moreover, if this master were to leave in anger, and if she were to say a few things to Sky Cloud City's Merchant Association, then he probably would be blacklisted by the association. Huang Yueli halted her footsteps as she slowly nodded. Since that's the case, then I'll stay around and take a look. To tell the truth, if it was usual times, after such a scene, Huang Yueli would absolutely not want to continue shopping around in this shop. But unfortunately she was pressed for time and was urgent to get on her journey. This stable was indeed the largest in the area, so she had to make do with it for now. The boss saw her nodding and wiped the sweat off her head as he heaved a sigh of relief. Following that, he eagerly attended to Huang Yueli, personally bringing her around the stable to take her pick. Huang Yueli impatiently said, All right, I'm rushing for time. I want that pure black-colored dark lightning stead. How much? This dark lightning stead is something which 3/4 stage realm practitioners work together to capture it. Look at its shiny hair and 4 limbs. Enough of the nagging, how much is it? The boss wanted to exaggerate a little to raise the horse's value. Whoever knew Huang Yueli couldn't be bothered to hear what he had to say. He could only reply, a total of 100,000 mid-quality spirit stones and 1,000 upper-quality spirit stones. Huang Yueli nodded, and without saying anything else, she took a few bags out from her interspatial ring and threw it onto the boss's hands, and walked over to lead the horse by herself. You can also listen on. The boss lowered his head and counted the spirit stones in the bags and went into a blank. This master, have you given us short? Huang Yueli didn't even bother to give him a look and said, that's correct, where did I give short? The boss laughed wryly, this. Master, didn't you hear clearly earlier? Or have you taken the wrong bag? I said 100,000 mid-quality spirit stones, after 40% discount it should be 60,000. You have here only a total of 30,000. Huang Yueli then swept him a glance as her lips curled into a sarcastic arc. Boss, do you think I'm so easy to fool? Or are armament masters sillier regarding money? This dark lightning stead of yours, although it's a third-tier magical beast, but it was once injured and had long lost the battle power of a third-tier magical beast. It's only suitable for use as a mount. Think I really can't tell? This dark lightning stead's highest value would be 50,000 mid-quality spirit stones, and after 40%, it's 30,000, so I didn't give wrongly. This. The boss was flabbergasted as he heard her speak out frankly with assurance. He indeed had the intention, thinking that such a young armament master, although had a lot of money but probably didn't understand the market value. So how much was it sold for was based on his words. Not to mention giving her a 40% discount. Even if it was a 90% discount, he could still open a ridiculous pricing to earn loads of profit. In the end, he had not expected Huang Yueli to expose his tricks from just one conversation, and accurately stated the market value for this dark lightning stead. In this way, after giving her a 40% discount, he was going to make a loss of 20,000 mid-quality spirit stones. This to him wasn't a small amount of money. The boss wiped the sweat off his forehead and tried his best to defend himself. Really? This dark lightning stead is actually injured. I really can't tell. Furthermore, we will not just sell the horse to you, we also have specialized professionals who can aid you in taming it before mounting it. Otherwise, a wild magical beast like this are usually very unyielding. How could a delicate armament master like you? The boss spoke halfway when he suddenly stopped. He saw Huang Yueli walked directly to the side of the dark lightning stead and stretched out her hand on its head, patting it, subsequently retrieving a piece of cubed sugar from her interspatial ring and fed it. After the dark lightning stead finished its sugar, its head rubbed against her chest and obediently lowered its body to allow her to mount it. The boss's eyes almost popped out. What he was saying earlier was half true. This horse was indeed tamed by 3 4th-stage realm practitioners, and that was the truth. Furthermore, after the dark lightning stead came to their stable, it had been difficult to tame it, and whoever went near it would be kicked, not to mention allowing anyone to mount it obediently. In the end, this weak-looking armament master actually easily conquered it, and even led the horse away. How would he ever knew that Huang Yueli's concentration power was much stronger than everyone else, and her cultivation was stronger than what he imagined? The dark lightning stead was said to be a magical beast which bullied the weak and afraid of the strong, so when it saw her, it didn't dare to resist. Adding on to the fact that Huang Yueli had a natural affinity towards animals, so naturally it was easy for her. Huang Yueli mounted the horse, and without saying anything, she left with the horse. She left Sky Cloud City and went on her way. The number of pedestrians on the road were getting lesser and lesser. The faint uneasy feeling in Huang Yueli's heart became more and more obvious. You can also listen on. Instinct told her that someone had their eyes on her, but even though she specially detoured several times, but that didn't make the follower give the game away. This to Huang Yueli was a dangerous signal. Because she wasn't any rookie who had just stepped out into society but was an experienced practitioner. In terms of anti-tracking and evading dangerous spots, she was already very experienced. But even though she used several tactics, but she wasn't able to dig the question out. This meant that the person who followed her had long surpassed her own ability. Moreover, he should be an experienced practitioner. To be targeted by such a person, her current situation was extremely dangerous. Huang Yueli wasn't able to dig that person out for the entire day. Till nightfall, she rested at an inn and specially asked for an ordinary room, selecting the most isolated corner, hoping to make her follower thought her defenses were low and would attack her in the middle of the night. She set up various mechanisms in the room and maintained a light sleeping condition for the entire night, preserving her senses as she guarded against him. In the end, the entire night went by but nothing happened. This made Huang Yueli even more suspicious. Could it be that the opponent had seen through her tricks? Or the opponent didn't want her life at all, but had other motives? The next day morning, Huang Yueli didn't set off alone but chose to move along with a group of merchants. Originally, the leader of the merchants team wasn't willing to travel along with strangers, but upon seeing Huang Yueli's armament master badge, his attitude took a 180-degree turn, and not only did he stop opposing, he even immediately started to flatter her and pleased her. Profound armament business was the most profitable business in the entire Soaring Heavens continent, and to get on good terms with a boundless future young armament master, that meant that there would be endless profound armaments to deal with and loads of spirit stones going into their account. So when Huang Yueli expressed that she was evading trouble and needed them to cover her for a while, he agreed immediately. Huang Yueli wasn't expecting this group of merchants' protection. After all, the highest cultivation in this group was only 3rd stage realm, so in terms of battle power, they didn't even stand 10% of hers. But the more people who covered her, that meant the higher increased chances of her escape. Although the truth had proven itself, but Huang Yueli's thinking was still wrong. After the group of merchants had left on their journey, not too long later, a hooded man stopped their tracks. "Where are the few of you heading to?" When Huang Yueli heard this voice, her mind suddenly buzzed. She immediately recognized that this voice was the same one as when she was attacked at the scripture depository entrance. That masked man's voice, the one following her, was actually him. This was bad. The last time she crossed hands with this black-robed man, she wasn't his opponent at all. The disparity between a 7th and 3rd stage realm was just too huge. If it wasn't for Li Moying's timely arrival, she probably would have become a dead corpse by now. She had not expected the black-robed man to continue monitoring her movements, and the minute he saw her separated from Li Moying and leaving Celestial Light Academy alone, he immediately followed her, attempting to take action on her. This time, it's probably the end for her. But the black-robed man was standing right in front, and she couldn't possibly turn around and leave. That would expose her as a target even easily. All she could do was to maintain her cool and wait for an opportunity to escape. The merchant group's leader felt this man was a little too strange, but didn't realize that he was so dangerous. "You can also listen on." The leader tried to sound him out. "We are from Jade Wind Merchant Guild, and we're on our way to do business at the west side, which is why we are passing by here. May I know what's the meaning of you stopping us here?" Jade Wind Merchant Guild was one of the 3 merchant guilds in Skycloud City, and usually after he reported the name of his backing, most petty thieves would not dare to make trouble for them. But that mysterious man was not moved, and he asked, "This morning, was there a 14 to 15-year-old lass who sneaked in between your merchant group?" The minute the leader heard this, he knew this was what Huang Yueli meant by trouble. But since he had already accepted a few pieces of 1st-tier profound armaments as present, so naturally he would have to deny that. "What young lass? I've never seen her. Are you looking for someone? Who is this young lass? Has your daughter gone missing?" The mysterious man sneered, and that husky laughter which came from the hood sounded even more horrifying. "I'd persuade you to think carefully if there's such a person. I forgot to remind you that earlier the other merchant groups which were staying in the same inn as you, I've already cross-checked with them one by one. There was a leader of one merchant group who didn't know what's good for him and refused to answer my question. Since I was in a hurry to know the answer, then I could only." His voice halted, and his profound energy was suddenly unleashed as a powerful aura floated out towards them. "Could only kill them one by one, but in the end, I wasn't able to find her." His words were flighty, but those people who heard that all trembled with fear as sweat drenched their backs. This not only meant that the words that he said was horrifying, but also meant that he displayed the fact that he was able to kill everyone there. At this moment, the leader turned green with regret. He had not expected that this young armament master to have trifled with such a horrifying, peerless expert. If he knew this earlier, he wouldn't even covert over those few pieces of profound armaments, which might even cost his life. A few others in the group started to sway. Someone spoke out while shivering, "This, sir." He had just made a starting when suddenly his eyes popped out. A blinding flame rose into the sky right in front of them. Immediately following that, a few hundred cicada blades shot towards the mysterious man under the cover of the fire. The entire scene turned disorderly immediately, and there were various screams and screeches as the sound of goods overturning filled the entire place. The mysterious man was caught off guard, and even though he managed to react in time at the last stage, avoiding the important places, but his arms and thighs could not avoid being pierced several times. Not only that, after the flying daggers pierced into his skin and flesh, it actually started rotating by itself, as though it was trying to mince meat, making his injury turned into a bloody mess. The mysterious man was in so much pain that he cried out sharply. Amidst this confusion, Huang Yueli had already secretly slipped out and dashed into the mounts of weeds along the side of the road. Ever since she entered the third stage realm peak, she was able to refine 5th-tier upper-quality profound armaments, and earlier the concealed weapon which she threw out at the mysterious man was a set of flying dagger which was imbued with the pyrogenic process, and this was one of her top work. The value was priceless. But at this moment, she couldn't care less about her heartache, as she cast it out without any hesitation. Furthermore, she was very sure that towards a 7th-stage realm exponent, no matter how exquisite her 5th-tier profound armament was, it wasn't capable of dealing him with a fatal injury and could only obstruct him for a moment. She must immediately find a way to avoid him. But Huang Yueli really was unlucky today. You can also listen on. The surroundings of this pathway were all infertile weeds, and there wasn't even a tall tree which could be seen, not to mention anything which allowed her to hide herself with. Huang Yueli could only ran all the way and at the same time, prayed that her concealed weapon would be able to stop that mysterious man for a little while longer. Unfortunately, heavens didn't seem to hear her prayer. After the mysterious man was hurt by her, it drew out his determination from the agitation and became more wild and impatient. He dashed out from the fire and ran towards the direction which Huang Yueli was running in. "Wretched lass, you still dare to run. You made me turned out into this. I'm going to kill you to feed the dogs." Huang Yueli worked out all her profound energy in her body and unleashed her greatest skills. As though a raging wind, she flew past the weeds on the ground. Simultaneously, she used her exclusive skill and threw out concealed weapons behind her, hoping to create some obstructions for the mysterious man. But even so, her cultivation was still too far apart from the mysterious man. The two of them ran for around 1 hour, and as their distance closed in, the mysterious man was right behind Huang Yueli, no further than 200 meters away, and he was just about to chase up to her. Mysterious man screamed as he gave a chilly laugh. "Run, why don't you run some more? A third stage lass like you, did you think you can escape from me? When I catch you, I will let you have a taste of my methods." TSK, I wonder if the woman which young sect master had before, does she have any exceptional point? I want to taste something fresh too. Huang Yueli pretended not to hear his words and continued running wildly in front. In actual fact, she was very sure that today she would not be able to escape, but as long as there was a tiny hope, she would not give up. In so many years of her experiences, there were numerous times where she was on the lifeline, but she eventually managed to escape successfully. What she relied on, other than her ability, but most important, was the ability to remain absolutely calm and composed in times of urgency. Her eyes swept past the front and suddenly her eyes lit up. Not too far away from her appeared a tall sharp tower which was hidden in the clouds. Although the outer wall was filled with ashes and vines covered it, but she was still able to tell that it was an exquisitely designed building. Not only that, around the surrounding of the tower, approximately 3 miles from the zone, there were huge rocks laid out into an array. From those huge rocks' arrangement, it encircled the tower in rounds. If an ordinary practitioner happened to pass, that person would probably felt that these rocks were left behind during the construction of the tower and was laid around casually by the surroundings. However, for an expert like Huang Yueli, these huge rocks represented a dangerous array. If an unknowing person entered casually, he would be able to find a way to enter but absolutely not be able to find the way to exit, and eventually be trapped inside alive. For someone who had nowhere to escape, this was a huge surprise for Huang Yueli, which fell right from the sky. Indeed, Heaven would leave a door open, and as long as they entered the boundary of the array, it was probably impossible for the mysterious man to chase up to her. Having this thought, Huang Yueli once again drew out several fifth-tier profound elements and profusely casted it towards the mysterious man, and at the same time trying to preserve the profound energy within her body while she precipitously increased her speed and sped towards the tall tower's direction. Damn it! What is this? Mysterious man shrieked out behind her. Apparently he was struck by her again. Huang Yueli seemed to have wind under her feet, and it took a couple of breaths before she entered the huge stone array's boundary. You can also listen on. The minute she walked near the huge stone array, the surrounding air seemed to blow up gusts of mist, blurring the vision by quite a bit. This was very disadvantageous to judging the array's internal part. Huang Yueli only took a few steps inside and stopped as her forehead creased slowly. She had not expected this situation to appear within the huge stone array's internal part. Not only was the arrangement of the huge stone array extremely strange, furthermore the intensity of heaven and earth's profound qi was much higher than outside. The mist was formed due to the concentration of the profound qi which was gathered. This sure is strange. This huge stone array is different from any other array which I've seen before. Moreover, the skill of the person who set up this array is exceptional. This array could actually condense the heaven and earth's profound qi. Now we're merely on the outer part of the array and the profound qi's condensation is already so high. If we walk to the center of the tower, to what degree would the concentration of the profound qi be? The more concentrated the profound qi was, to a practitioner, this was something which they couldn't wish enough as it could quickly speed up their cultivation. But for such a deep concentration, the pressure which was produced was immense. Huang Yueli had problems even breathing and wasn't able to see the situation from out of 50 meters ahead. Under such circumstances, to stay within a high-leveled array which one had not seen before was an extremely dangerous thing to do. Huang Yueli was very clear that if she was rational enough, she should immediately turn around and leave this huge stone array. Otherwise, the minute she went deep in, there was a 90% chance that she would be stuck inside and unable to come out. But, by Ruoli, wretched lass, get out this instant. You think that hiding within these stones, I will have no way to deal with you. Outside the huge stone array, the mysterious man's sinister voice was heard. Huang Yueli had no other way but to clenched hard on her teeth, and she continued to trudge forward. For her to head out now would be a route to death. But if she continued going forward, there would be one slim chance of survival. She was someone who didn't like to hesitate, and once she decided, she decisively walked in further and hid herself behind a huge stone. This was to ensure that if the mysterious man entered the huge stone array, he had no way to locate her immediately, so she stopped right here. Huang Yueli first turned around to check out her surroundings and stretched out her hand, feeling the surroundings, and felt a huge stone which felt at least 3 feet tall. From the wind erosion traces, these stones have been left here for at least several thousand years and possibly even 100,000 years history. In this case, the tall tower inside could possibly be left by ancestors 100,000 years ago. 100,000 years ago, in Soaring Heaven's continent was considered as ancient times. It was rumored that during those times in Soaring Heaven's continents, the intensity of heaven and earth's profound qi was much higher by 10 over times than now, and because of this, it was much easier for practitioners to cultivate then. In the ancient times, Soaring Heaven's continent's strong practitioners were everywhere, and 9th stage realm practitioners weren't considered as first-rated top exponent. The 10th stage realm, which Mu Chengying hoped to achieve, at that time in any strong powerhouses, would have at least 1 or 2 such characters. If the tower was indeed the remnants left behind in the ancient times, then inside, probably had some incredible inheritance or treasure. Thinking of this, Huang Yueli finally gathered some spirit. Actually, she wasn't interested in any inheritance or treasures right now. All she wanted to do was to get rid of the mysterious man and look for Li Moying in Celestial Light Sect to clear things up. But now she was already trapped within this array, so the only road left for her was to continue walking. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli stood under a huge rock and turned back towards the entrance which she entered from, thinking to use her own position to gauge where she was at now. However, when she turned back, she discovered that the entrance had already been shrouded in mist and couldn't be found. Huang Yueli frowned slightly as her mood became even gloomier. Looked like the idea of borrowing the array's deduction to calculate the operational rhythm was temporarily not possible, so she could only take one step at a time. Huang Yueli raised her hand and a flame shot outwards, burning against a huge rock, then subsequently extinguishing slowly. The area which was burnt left a scorched mark behind. This mark was instilled with a special mark filled with profound energy and concentration, and was different from using an ordinary knife to make a marking. Even though the array was ever-changing in the process of her advancement, it could not be erased. Huang Yueli chose a route and walked towards the inner part of the array. She maintained advancing towards the direction of the east, and every time she passed by a huge rock, she would use the same method to leave a marking. Just like that, she walked for around 4 hours when her feet suddenly halted and her vision turned towards the right side of a huge rock. On the huge rock, a clear distinct fire pattern was seen. It was the first marking which she left behind. Huang Yueli wasn't surprised at all but went seemingly into deep thought as she stared at the marking for a moment. This huge stone array wasn't very large and the diameter was just around 3 miles or so. If she were to talk in a straight line from the outer zone to the bottom of the tower, she only needed a quarter of an hour, but it's already been 4 hours and she had yet to find the exit. Apparently she had been heading round in circles on the spot. Huang Yueli's brows creased and after thinking deeply, she retrieved an array board from the Sky Phoenix ring. To an array master, the array board was the most important tool in calculation. Basically, when setting up arrays, it was required. Previously, when Murong Ni was setting up an array, the array board was always in her hands. But Huang Yueli's concentration was extremely strong, so she didn't need the array board for many low-leveled arrays before she could directly proceed with the deduction. However, the situation now was different. This array was possibly left behind during ancient times and was extremely complicated, whereas her cultivation level was obviously not there yet. Even she herself was not certain that she could break through the array. Huang Yueli held on to the array board and her lips pursed slightly as her eyes narrowed slightly, her long lashes hanging downwards as her fingers slid around on the array board, silently calculating. After some time, she kept the array board, turned around and headed towards another route. However, after another 3 hour plus, she had returned to the same spot once again. Huang Yueli wasn't discouraged and continued to calculate using the array board, finding the third route. Another 3 hour plus later. Looking at the familiar flame marking on the huge rock, Huang Yueli was no longer indifferent. What's going on? Why is it that my calculation is still wrong? There must be a certain element that I've forgotten to consider. The mist here is too big and I can't see the entire topography clearly, so I can't tell where the problem lies at. Suddenly, her tummy started rumbling. Huang Yueli then realized that a long time had already passed. Because the huge stone array was encapsulated in the thick heaven and earth profound qi, the inside was doleful and there was no way to differentiate clearly what time was on the outside. Probably, the outside has already turned dark, Huang Yueli mumbled as she took some food out from Sky Phoenix ring and retrieved a rug as she laid it on the ground. As little Phoenix was crying that it was bored in the Sky Phoenix ring non-stop, Huang Yueli allowed it to come out as well. You can also listen on. After little Phoenix appeared, its eyes revealed a shocked lock and after chirping several times, it turned into a little Shota. Whoa, what kind of ghost place is this? It's so dark. And so cold. So scary. Female devil, have you done too many guilty things, which is why you're sent to Hades at such a tender age? Huang Yueli was originally frustrated, but when she heard this little brat cursing her, the corners of her lips turned implicitly narrow and steep. I've not gone to Hades yet, but if you continue to make sister angry, perhaps I can send you to Hades immediately. She intentionally laughed evilly and backed against the sinister background of the huge stone array. She looked extremely terrifying. Little Wang Cai shuddered. Female devil. No, pretty sister, you're not talking for real, right? I'm still so small and so weak, and so lovable. You won't do such an evil thing, right? Huang Yueli responded, that's very hard to say. You see, this is the wilderness now and there's only so much rations and vegetables which the spiritual farm can store and grow, there's not even a drop of oil anywhere. If I were to strip your feathers, I can make a roasted chicken, tsk. She gave a drooling look which made Wang Xiai shriek out in fear, turning back into a little phoenix, and with a whoosh, he flew far, far away. Huang Yueli knew he wouldn't be lost and didn't bother much about it, as she sat on the rug and started eating her rations. At the same time, she pondered about this strange array. From the current situation, if she wanted to leave this place, she would need to walk at least a few hundred times repeatedly in this maze, and every time she passed by a huge rock, she would need to make a succession mark before she could start deducing, which was the only possibility of breaking this array. In this way, she needed to spend at least a month's time, and furthermore, this only meant that she might be able to break the array, but maybe she wouldn't be able to deduce the final result of the array. Although the rations she had in the Sky Phoenix ring was enough to support her for 1 month, but what if she wasn't able to get out within 1 month? Just as Huang Yueli was in deep thoughts, suddenly a clear phoenix cry was heard from not too far away. Choo dash. That sounded like Little Phoenix, but she couldn't tell what exactly was wrong. Huang Yueli immediately jumped and ran towards the direction of the sound. After turning into one corner, what met her eye was a bundle of bright flames. In between the gloomy, serene huge stones, the bundle of fire was extremely striking. That bright yellow ray was so striking that one couldn't open their eyes. After Huang Yueli was slightly accustomed to it, she barely opened a slit from her eyes, but upon one look, tears started flowing out. It was simply too bright. Would her eyes turn blind? However, just from this look alone, she was able to see the little bundle in the middle of the flames. Little Phoenix. It flapped its wings continuously in the flames and repeatedly twisted around, as though it was enduring a huge pain as it continued to give out a mournful whine. Huang Yueli's heart was lifted, but at the same time, she was surprisingly delighted. Seeing Little Phoenix in this manner, it seemed to be due to the fact that its body's profound energy was expended. In simpler terms, it meant it was going to advance. Ever since she had adopted Little Phoenix, this fellow didn't stop short of taking various fire-attributed spirit herbs or magical beast core, but eventually it just grew that little bit, and there was no obvious increase in its ability. Huang Yueli had fretted over this. Did this little fellow not grow up at all? You can also listen on. As the spirit beast of the Sky Phoenix ring, little Wang Cai's actual body and spirit had already been separated. If it was any other ordinary magical beasts, it definitely could not possibly continue growing. But for a spiritual beast like the phoenix, it was completely different. Huang Yueli had once read in the ancient books that phoenix would be able to absorb fire-attributed energy in the spiritual state, and once it reached a certain realm, it would be able to bath in true phoenix fire and be reborn. But what kind of realm was this certain realm wasn't stated in the ancient records, and Huang Yueli didn't needed to look before knowing that this was a higher tier than a 9th tier magical beast. Looking at little Wang Cai's slippery look, there was a 99% possibility that he had no chance. But no matter what, Huang Yueli still bore a sliver of hope that it could at least raise its potential, so from the start till now, she had fed a numerous amount of valuable medicinal herbs. In the end, this fellow ate till its tummy was rounded, and there was a time when it couldn't even fly stably, but the ability was raised. There wasn't even a shadow which could be seen. It was until now that this fellow was finally going to advance. On seeing this, Huang Yueli suddenly had a strange feeling, like her son was about to grow up. On the other side of the huge stone array, the mysterious man was holding on to a thin piece of lamb skin scroll, using the light reflection rays, gathering his concentration to look at it. His brows were tightly knitted and he was cursing non-stop softly. Damn it! Where did that wretched lass go? I finally waited for Li Moying to leave and managed to intercept her in the middle. Although I wasn't able to catch her, but this wretched lass fled wildly and chose to run to this tall tower, which coincided with what I wanted to do. Problem is she runs faster than a rabbit, and after entering the huge stone array, she disappeared. I've searched for an entire day and still didn't manage to see where she is. If this wretched lass were to die accidentally in this array, then how am I going to proceed with the plans which I made later on? Surely I'm not that unlucky, right? I'm just one step away from success. No way, even if I have to dig 3 feet underground, I must find that wretched lass. The mysterious man shook his fists, as his eyes were filled with cruelty. Thinking of the secret plan which he had been planning for such a long time, He was just about to succeed, but Huang Yueli managed to escape from him several times, wrecking his plans. This made the mysterious man extremely anxious. Just at this moment, a melodious chirp was heard from not too far away, and it went on and off, sounding unreal. Mysterious man stood up with a whoosh. What sound was that? There's a bird chirping. No, what was going on in the north side? Why is it suddenly so bright? Could it be that? By Ruoli, that wretched lass didn't know how to die and did something to the array? I have to go over and take a look. He tipped his toes and flew forward, speedily flying towards the bright area. Little Phoenix's body was surrounded by the flames, and it slowly started to develop changes. Firstly was its youthful feathers. It gradually grew longer and started to look like a phoenix's feathers. Immediately following that, its wings started to grow and its body increased slightly in size. After another 1 hour later, Little Phoenix's cries gradually weakened and the blinding flame slowly dimmed. By the time the flame entirely extinguished, Little Phoenix finally couldn't hang on any further and plopped right onto the ground. Huang Yueli hastily rushed over and caught it in her arms. After advancement, Little Phoenix grew slightly larger. Originally it was just the size of a small chick, and now, it grew to the size of a mature hen. You can also listen on. The feathers on Little Phoenix had apparently grown longer, and the golden red glister on it looked especially pretty, which made Huang Yueli almost wanting to pluck a few down to make into an accessory. Looking at it, it seemed that its ability had increased by a huge notch. However, it had just exhausted its energy during the advancement, and it had already lost its consciousness as it laid in Huang Yueli's arms. Huang Yueli pinched its wings and mumbled, "Really fattened up by quite a bit. Will it eat more chicken drumsticks in future? If I can't afford to rear it, then I should just stew it." Little Phoenix might have heard the evil intentions its mistress had in mind in its sleep, and its wings actually twitched a little. All right, I'll not eat you first. Seeing that there is a possibility that you might grow further, I'll just rear you until you fatten up a little more before making you into a roasted chicken." Huang Yueli gave a delighted smile and threw Little Phoenix into the Sky Phoenix ring, soaking it in the bathtub, which was filled with Spirit Saint spring water. She was extremely cautious, and after she kept Little Phoenix back into the Sky Phoenix ring, she purposely turned a few rounds before reaching the rear end of a huge rock relatively far away, and even set up an invisible array at its surroundings before lying down. Little Phoenix managed to advance successfully, and that was a great thing. Huang Yueli felt that this was a good sign, which showed that heaven always left a door open and she probably wouldn't really be trapped inside. So her mood lightened up by quite a bit as she took a peaceful nap throughout the entire night. She had not realized that the mysterious man had been exasperating, searching for her whereabouts for an entire night, and there were several times where he revolved around the location where she was by a distance of 10 over steps but gained nothing at all. The next day, Huang Yueli was awoken by the screeching noises made by Little Phoenix in the Sky Phoenix ring. Wah! Dash! This little master has advanced, this little master has grown up. Look at my martial and heroic body and my strong legs, my broad and firm wings, and this shiny golden feathers. I'm simply the #1 most handsome bird under this heavens. Huang Yueli's lips twitched as she felt that she was almost about to throw up. With a change of thoughts, she released Little Phoenix. The moment Little Phoenix saw her, it immediately puffed up its chest proudly and chirped several times. Huang Yueli's thoughts were linked to his and naturally knew that this little fellow was badly inflated. Earlier those few words bore utter disdain towards its master. Her lips curled upwards and gave a cold harumph. You seem rather delighted. In the past, those reed flower mother hen which we reared in South U Kingdom were just as big as you. Did you really think your wings have hardened? Then change into a human form for me to take a look. Kai. Little Phoenix protested intensely. Who did you say was a reed flower mother hen? And, you want me to change and I'll change? Then what face would this little master had left? Unfortunately, he was Huang Yueli's contracted spiritual pet, and Huang Yueli only needed to move her thoughts and it could not help but changed into its human form as it fell onto the ground. Huang Yueli looked at it and immediately let out a disappointed expression. Ah, so little. I thought you've grown a little bigger. In the end, you're still a stinky little kid. Little Wang Cai in front of her, although he had grown slightly taller, originally he could only hug her calf, but now he was able to hug her thigh. Huang Yueli's behavior and tone was extremely disappointed. Little Phoenix was so upset that it stomped its feet. You, what do you mean? How dare you despise this little master? You can also listen on. Huang Yueli's brows rose as she apparently had not cared about the phoenix's bird rights. So what if I despise you? After eating so many chicken drumsticks from your sister here, you just grew that little bit. Sigh, could it be that you have a congenital deficiency? Otherwise, are you dysphasic? I do not have a congenital deficiency, and you're the one who's dysphasic. Little master, I am very powerful. Look carefully if you don't believe me. Little Phoenix stomped its feet as it swirled out an orange-colored flame and set it towards a piece of huge rock. The flame in its hands was exactly the number 1 deviant flame, true phoenix fire, in soaring heaven's continent. Huang Yueli herself had refined one of it so apparent she was not surprised but just stood beaming in one corner. But very soon, her eyes widened with shock. The place which the true phoenix fire had scorched had instantly turned to ashes and the black-grey-colored dregs continued to fall off. This piece of rock bore the mark which she burnt yesterday was inerasable. Just leaving a mark on it spent quite an amount of profound energy of hers. Little Wang Cai's fire. This was the upgraded version. Little Phoenix saw her stupefied expression and its chubby little face was filled with complacency. Saw it? Initially my flame was crimson red and that's the most basic level. Now it's changed into orange, which represents that I've already entered the second stage. From now on, after experiencing 9 more changed, when my flame becomes black, I will be able to experience rebirth in nirvana. Isn't that powerful or what? Huang Yueli secretly rolled her eyes. This arrogant zeal, was it something that was exclusive to this little fellow or something which he inherited from the family? Were phoenixes also narcissi? She didn't want to aid this unhealthy ethos in growing, so she changed the topic. Right, in the past I'd thought of so many ways and wasn't able to help you advance. Last night, how did you suddenly? Little Phoenix said, about this. Maybe it's due to the concentrated heaven and earth profound chi here. When I was released out here yesterday, I felt my entire body becoming very hot, and the hotter it got, the more I wanted to find a cool and spacious space to see if I can make myself cool down. In the end, not only did I not manage to cool down, I caught fire instead. I was burnt until I was in so much pain, and later on, I fainted. When I came to, I discovered that I'd advance. So this is the feeling of advancement. Huang Yueli replied in enlightenment. I see. No wonder in the past I'd prescribed medicinal herbs to you according to the Sky Phoenix Ring's ancient manual, but it was all useless. So it's because the profound chi wasn't concentrated enough. Little Phoenix nodded its head. Right, we Phoenix clan had lived in the God Realm, and the concentration of the God Realm's profound chi is much more concentrated than in this array. As compared to it, the usual soaring heavens continent's profound chi's intensity is simply too weak and very difficult to advance. Huang Yueli nodded as she started considering that the next time Little Phoenix advances, she would need to set up a powerful spirit-gathering array which gathered all the surrounding profound chi. But to raise the profound chi's concentration to the usual of 10 times and above, it was no laughing matter. The best spirit-gathering array in soaring heavens continent now could only increase the profound chi's concentration by 5 times. Unless she was able to understand this ancient huge stone array's operational or to obtain the array map. Right. I've thought of something. Just as she was in a daze, Little Phoenix suddenly cried out, I have a thinking, and perhaps it might be able to break this array. When Huang Yueli heard what it said, her eyes shone brightly. What idea? Quickly tell me. You can also listen on. Little Phoenix raised its head upright and gave a light cough, attempting to be arrogant. Huang Yueli saw through his plan immediately and she evilly smiled. I say, Wang Cai, you shouldn't have forgotten that we're still in the wilderness and your sister here hasn't taken any grease for the past few days. Little Phoenix shivered and was scared till it immediately stood upright. Why are you scaring an adorable and innocent boy like me? SP. Speak, I'll speak, all right. Deep down his heart, He silently cursed this female demon for her ruthless ways but did not dare to voice out his thinking. Actually, when I came out of the Sky Phoenix ring yesterday, I realized that something was wrong. Haven't you noticed that the air around this array feels very familiar? Huang Yueli blinked. Really? Do you need to make it so profound? Little Phoenix angrily retorted, it's true. Not that I'm deliberately mystifying anything. This array is apparently left behind from the ancient times, and the person who set up this array is a peerless expert, so he left behind his presence in this array, which is why even after tens of thousands of years, this array hasn't completely dispersed yet. Huang Yueli said, really? Then why can't I feel anything? Because you're a human and I'm a phoenix. We phoenixes' senses are much more sensitive than humans. Alright, this I've got to admit. Huang Yueli nodded and questioned again. Then, this expert's presence which was left behind, why did it made you feel familiar? Little Phoenix continued, if your 5 senses are as sensitive as mine, then you definitely have the same feeling because this kind of presence, I have sensed it at 2 other places before. The more Huang Yueli heard, the more muddled she became. Which 2 other places? Have I been there before too? Little Phoenix threw a yaw and idiot glance as it stared at her. Of course. These 2 places, one is the Valiant Martial Manor in South Yu Kingdom and the other is in Celestial Light Academy's scripture depository. When you first took out the blood feather silk cage which your father left behind and when you opened that secret compartment in the scripture depository, I sensed a similar presence. Only the other 2 places' presence weren't as strong as this place. A light bulb lit up in Huang Yueli's mind as though she suddenly understood something but wasn't that clear. Then, this means, the peerless expert who set up this array should have a blood relation with you and moreover your father made you look for this, maybe. It is related to this array. Little Phoenix explained. Huang Yueli thought carefully about what Little Phoenix said. If Wang Cai's senses hadn't gone wrong, that would be enough to conclude that this array was related to the item which Bai Liu Feng left for her. But, wasn't this just a little too coincidental? Did she had such dog-T luck? At Celestial Light Academy, her clue was cut off and even the item in the secret compartment which Bai Liu Feng left behind was gone. So in the normal course of events, the possibility of her being able to continue investigating was very minute. But now she was so lucky to reconnect with the broken clue while she was escaping for her life. A bad feeling arose faintly in Huang Yueli's heart, but she wasn't able to understand what was wrong. Little Phoenix looked at her dazed look and couldn't help but tugged at her dress hem. Hey, female devil, why are you in a daze? Do you or do you not believe in what I said? You can also listen on. Its sparkly eyes were affixed on her when Huang Yueli suddenly stretched out her claw and both her hands pinched Wang Cai's chubby face, as she kept rubbing and stretching it. Female devil dash. You, what are you planning to do? Let this little master go. Little Phoenix suffered a ravage and it couldn't help but started screeching loudly. Huang Yueli smiled. I suddenly realized that a brat like you is quite smart and adorable. I'd not expected you to think of such things and actually did me a big favor. Little Phoenix kneaded his face which had turned red from the pinching and its ears secretly flushed a pink shade. That is definite. I am originally smart and adorable. Huang Yueli beamed and continued, now all's good, looks like we will be able to leave. Little Phoenix was stunned. Huh? It wouldn't be that fast. Although we've finally found some clues, but to leave would probably be difficult and the complexity of this array had gone beyond my imagination. From the recollection in my memories, even if it was in the God realm, this kind of array is very high-leveled. Huang Yueli, however, seemed to have a plan up her sleeve as she smiled. Things aren't as complicated as you think. In actual fact, haven't you told me earlier the way to break the array? Did I? Little Phoenix was at a loss. Huang Yueli nodded. You did. Twice previously, when I opened the blood feather silk cage and the secret compartment, I used my blood so it showed that the clues which my father left for me, under normal circumstances, needed to use close relatives' blood before it can be activated. Since this array is part of the clue which my father left for me, then naturally it would also need blood. As Huang Yueli spat out the last word, simultaneously she flipped her right hand and retrieved a dagger from her realm ring, as she cut her left index finger without the least hesitation. Fresh blood immediately poured out. She shook her finger and let the blood drip onto the ground. Huang Yueli and Little Phoenix held their breaths as she stared at the ground without blinking. The moment her blood touched the ground, the entire huge stone array vibrated and the surrounding huge stones started to shake, as though it would collapse at any moment. Little Phoenix shrieked and moved sideways to hide. However, the rocks didn't drop down but suddenly flashed brightly at its original position on the grade floor tiles. A palm-sized stream red thread seemed to be leading the direction forward. It's true. This also can. Little Phoenix cried out in alarm. However, before one woman and one bird could get excited, the red thread extended to around 1 meter and suddenly stopped extending. What's going on? Little Phoenix asked curiously. Huang Yueli muttered to herself irresolutely, should be, because there's not enough blood. Ah! Under Little Phoenix's confused expression, Huang Yueli picked up the dagger once again and this time round, she slit a cut on her wrist, a rather large one, around 1/2 inch long. This time, blood continued to gush out from the wound on her wrist and flowed onto the ground. The red thread extended forward with lightning-fast speed as it led out a clear path. That's great, we finally found the way out. Wang Cai quickly catch up. Huang Yueli run forward along but its short legs weren't able to catch up at all as it procrastinated and ran a little. On discovering that he had been shook off a rather huge distance, it cursed lowly and turned back into a little phoenix as it spread its wings and tried its best to follow up. You can also listen on. Just at a distance under 300 meters away from Huang Yueli and Little Phoenix. The mysterious man held on to the lambskin scroll and he looked all around searching for their whereabouts. He had already searched for an entire night but was still unable to discover where Huang Yueli was hiding, and as time went by, he started to become more and more impatient and increasingly frustrated. Yesterday night, he had seen with his own eyes the glaring flame which arose in the array, but by the time he managed to rush over, the light had diminished and the array was once again restored to the serene and gloomy look. As the 4 surroundings were totally silent, not even a bird's chirping could be heard. By Ruoli, wretched lass, where on earth are you? I'm the one who has the array map, whereas you're just a headless fly which scatters everywhere. But why am I not able to find you? Where on earth have you hidden yourself to? He didn't know that Huang Yueli was equipped with the skill of setting up an array, and she easily set up an invisible array which successfully cheated him. After an entire gainless night, the mysterious man started to doubt his life. But just at this moment, the huge stone array started to vibrate. Mysterious man had thought something went wrong with the array and was scared stiff. But this vibration only lasted for 10 over breaths before it gradually weakened. Immediately following that, from not too far away, a red thread suddenly appeared on the ground, and the direction which this thread was pointing to was exactly the same as the mark on the mysterious man's map, as it abruptly pointed to the array's exit, the middle of the tall tower. After a moment, footsteps could be heard from a nearby distance, and after the mysterious man hid himself behind a huge rock, he saw Huang Yueli's fleeting figure running towards the exit. He wasn't anxious to chase after her, but let out a chilly smile. She's really Bai Lui Feng's daughter, even though she doesn't have the map which Bai Liu Feng left behind, but she's still able to find the way out. Looks like the inheritance which Bai Liu Feng left behind had indeed been tampered with and only his daughter has the way. But no matter, as long as his daughter is in my hands, that inheritance will naturally become mine. Ha ha ha, Bai Ruoli, never expected this, eh? You thought you'd found the way out, but actually, it's only the shortcut to send you to your death. He saw Huang Yueli almost disappearing out of his line of sight and got up before following her carefully. Huang Yueli was still dashing straight forward. Little Phoenix flew till he was panting and felt that his wings didn't seem to belong to itself anymore. Kai kai kai. Kai kai kai. Female devil, just how big is still array? We've already ran for so long and still haven't seen the exit. Stop complaining, we should be reaching soon. Just this bit of distance and you can't fly anymore, you exercise too little. Huang Yueli's expression remained the same and even her breathing wasn't messy, so she could still afford to educate Little Phoenix. They didn't realize that something was amiss because the red-colored line revealed a segment. Other than absorbing Huang Yueli's blood, it would also cause the huge stone rock array to vibrate. With so many huge rocks moving about continuously, with its astonishing battle array, it made it very difficult for them to notice any other sounds from the surroundings. As they ran, after around 1 hour later, the path before them suddenly became brighter and brighter, and although the intensity of the profound chi didn't descend, but the mist inevitably became lighter and lighter. Huang Yueli increased her speed and ran faster and finally dashed out of the huge rock array's boundary. You can also listen on. The image that entered their eyes was a broad and simple yet unadorned high tower. The tower body was very delicate, width was only 10 meters, yet it was very tall, like a needle pointing towards the sky horizon. When Huang Yueli saw that, she uncontrollably broke out in cold sweat. Such a slender tower body, it felt like a big gust of wind would be able to blow it down any time. However, this tall tower had experienced thousands of years of being windswept and battering of rain, and yet it remained immovable, as it stood upright majestically. Huang Yueli walked forward along with Little Phoenix and suddenly felt something was not right. On turning back, she realized that the array exit which she had left from earlier had disappeared into the mist, and even that blinding road sign had also disappeared without a trace. Looks like we can only head towards the tower, Huang Yueli shrugged. Little Phoenix patted its wings. Kai 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 kai. Hurry, go in. There might be some clues which Uncle Bai left behind inside. I have a premonition that a huge secret was hiding inside. Huang Yueli nodded and walked towards the entrance. The high tower's main door was made out of bronze and was extremely lofty. The door was carved with complicated patterns. Look, this seems like a phoenix. Huang Yueli pointed to the center position. That position used an extensive amount of intricate carving methods, and a lively image of a phoenix was carved out. She hadn't heard any answer and curiously turned around. Little Phoenix's expression was filled with shock. What's wrong with you? Kai kai kai. This carving looks so much like my brother, so martial and heroic, compared to me. It's just lacking that little bit. Huang Yueli's lips twitched. I think you must have gone crazy thinking of your brother. This is the mark left behind tens of thousands of years ago by a peerless expert, and your brother had never been to Soaring Heaven's continent, right? Moreover, don't all the phoenixes look alike? You can tell which is which. Kai 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 kai. Who said everyone looks the same? We're obviously not the same. For someone as handsome as this little mater, where can you find a second one? Little Phoenix protested violently, but Huang Yueli didn't read the deep meaning behind its words, only feeling that it was as arrogant as always, so she didn't probe further. She placed her hand on the door as she pushed gently. Kai, following that was a slight sound as the bronze door flashed a glint of blue light, shocking Huang Yueli so much that she withdrew her hand swiftly. Her expression looked to be filled in deep thoughts. Looks like this door cannot be opened casually. There are several ancient arrays encrypted onto this. Before she could finish her words, suddenly Little Phoenix gave a mournful whine as its voice resonated through the skies. Huang Yueli trembled, and before her body could make any reaction, her toes had threaded hard on the ground as she flew out in a slanted direction. At the same time, she gathered all the profound chi from her body, and a bundle of thunder flame like fire was thrown out towards her back. As expected, just as she was jumping out, a wetting profound chi attacked towards her original position. Although this strike didn't hit her, but when it struck the ground, it caused a huge hole on the tough stone ground. Huang Yueli turned around to take a look in lingering fear. Standing not too far behind her was the mysterious man who was chasing after her in hot pursuit yesterday. Huang Yueli's eyes popped out with surprise as she didn't expect the mysterious man to follow her to this place. Although yesterday Little Phoenix made a huge commotion while it was advancing, but the huge stone array layout was just too complicated. You can also listen on. Even though they weren't able to see anyone nearby, but it wasn't as though they wanted to reach a certain position and they could reach that position. There was a 99% possibility that in the process of finding someone, they might lose their way in the array. Because of this, although Huang Yueli knew that the mysterious man had also entered the huge stone array, but she wasn't particularly worried. The possibility of them meeting in the array was just too low. Moreover, the mysterious man did not have her special bloodline, so there was no way he could use her method to walk out from the array. But even thought it was not possible theoretically, but in actual fact, That mysterious man had indeed came out. Huang Yueli quickly calmed down and faced the mysterious man, but she was on high alert, ready to face his attack and meet it. Mysterious man wasn't in any urgency to attack her again, but instead he began to laugh sinisterly. By Ruoli, we meet yet again. I've told you earlier that no matter how you run, you'd not be able to escape from me, so why do you even bother to be so anxious and waste so much effort? Why not coordinate with me obediently and save yourself from being horrified? Huang Yueli sneered. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old kid? That I'd believe your nonsense. Mysterious man laughed. What I'm saying is not fake. To tell you the truth, the reason why I'd be pursuing you non-stop is so that I can bring you to this place. Now that you've come here yourself, it saved quite an amount of effort on my end. Now as long as you're willing to help me with a favor, once the matter is done, I can let you off. Huang Yueli's eyebrows rose. You tried to capture me just to bring me here, why? This mysterious huge stone array and high tower are obviously an early historical remain, but it's never been spread around by anyone, so how did you discover this place and what does it have to do with me? Mysterious man replied, as a kid, why is your curiosity so strong? Anyway, now that you can't escape, do you know what's the difference? The difference now is whether you obediently help me, or I will pressure you to help. His tone was starting to become impatient as he intentionally raised his voice, sounding extremely vicious. Huang Yueli, however, remained unmoved. You think I'm not clear-minded? If you have 100% certainty to force me to do as you wish, would you even waste so much time talking nonsense to me? Since you have no certainty and want me to help, then you have to tell me clearly. Otherwise, I will immediately self-explode. Anyway, it's just death, and since it can still spoil your plan, it's worth it. She intentionally said this, and as expected, the mysterious man clenched his fists tightly, obviously slightly anxious. Looks like she had stepped on the mysterious man's vulnerable spot. Huang Yueli was very sure that the mysterious wanted her alive so that she could help him with his matter, otherwise the last time in Celestial Light Academy, he could have killed her. Just that she didn't know, what motive did this fellow had? He considered for a moment before speaking out. All right, I'll cut the story short. This huge stone array and high tower had already existed here for a long time, and the reason why there were no related hearsay was because, firstly, this historical remains was only visible under a particular weather and usually it's invisible. Secondly, most people who enters this huge stone array would be lost in it and eventually trapped and died inside. Huang Yueli nodded. At least up to this point, mysterious man was not lying. She had indeed seen many skeletal remains while she was in the huge stone array, and that should be those explorers who had starved to death after entering this place some time ago. You can also listen on. The mysterious man continued, some years ago, I unintentionally discovered a piece of treasure map, and the mark on top shows the position of this early historical remains, the timing it appears, and the way to pass through the huge stone array. Only when I reached the high tower, I realized that I couldn't open the bronze door with the phoenix carving, no matter what. In order to open this door, I've already thought about it for a very long time, all the way until, he paused, as though he was thinking of what to say. After that, you joined Celestial Light Academy and I realized that you have an exceptional talent in armament refining, and there is a possibility that you can help me open this door, so I set my sights onto you. Look, this to you is an enormous opportunity. If you coordinate with me to open this door, after I enter the high tower, whatever profound armaments or spiritual medicine or rare treasure, I'll split half with you. What do you think? As he was saying, he threw out a bundle of tempting baits as he started to convince Huang Yueli into cooperating with him. Huang Yueli pretended to be ignorant as she asked, really? Just helping you and I will be able to get so much benefits. In the early historical remains, just any kind of treasure are all top-rated valuables. Isn't that so? The mysterious man thought she had been convinced as he hurriedly continued persuading. What I need you to do is especially simple. You just need to give a little and you will be able to get the treasures from the early historical remains. Such a good thing, once you've passed this village, there'd be no such shop anymore. Huang Yueli frowned as she asked, your words have aroused my interest. But I still don't understand. I'm merely an ordinary student in Celestial Light Academy and considered to have a little bit of armament refining skills. But I know nothing about this early historical mechanism, so what can I help you with? Are you thinking too highly of me? No matter, no matter. Mysterious man hurriedly replied, this matter is especially simple and only a talented armament master like you can achieve. Pa pa pa. Before the mysterious man had finished his words, Huang Yueli couldn't help but started clapping. Mysterious man was stunned. Huang Yueli responded, your lie have been weaved until it's so real, but have you thought that I'm too silly? Your words are full of loopholes. Did you think I will believe you? Unintentionally discovered a treasure map and it showed the position of an early historical remain. Where can you find this kind of treasure map? Give me 100 pieces of it. You've tried on several times to kidnap me to this place, just to let me use my armament refining skills to open this door for you. Are you trying to cheat a child? The mysterious man was exposed by her on the spot and his expression instantly sunk, but he refused to admit it. Why? You feel that I'm lying to you? What I'm saying is all the truth. I wanted to cooperate with you sincerely, so I told you everything I know. Don't you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Huang Yueli calmly replied, what you're saying is indeed the truth, but you've changed some crucial points slightly. The treasure map should be true, but it's not that you discovered it unintentionally. Earlier I opened the secret compartment which my father left behind. I immediately was pursued by you. These two matters are definitely linked, and your treasure map should be retrieved after you tried ways and means to open the secret compartment which my father left behind. You, the mysterious man, was tongue-tied. He had thought that the words he said earlier was obscured enough, but he had not expected Huang Yueli to be able to find any flaws, and just using a few words, she managed to deduce the truth. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli continued talking. The information regarding the treasure map having marked the early historical remains should be true as well, otherwise, you couldn't possibly pinpoint my position in such a complicated huge stone array. But, you've kidnapped me here is absolutely not because you fancied my status of an armament master, but there should be some mechanism which only I can open up. Am I right to say that? After Huang Yueli finished her words, the mysterious man immediately fell into silence. He was utterly shocked. He had not expected Huang Yueli to be such an agile person. Even these were guessed correctly. On seeing that the truth could not be hidden any further, he might as well told the truth. All right, since you've guessed it, then there's no meaning even if I refuse to admit it. Now that you're already here and have no way of leaving, why don't you help me open this door? I'll keep my word on whatever I've said earlier. As long as you can help me here, whatever there is inside, I'll split it with you. Huang Yueli laughed coldly in her heart. She wasn't some innocent young lady who had just came out to experience, so how could she possibly be so naive? Mysterious man on several attempts had wanted to take her life, and now he's using some unrealistic promises to cheat her into helping him. She gauged that after she opened the door, not to mention about splitting the treasures, she probably would lose her life on the spot. But she didn't expose him immediately. Instead she questioned, how do you want me to help you? Mysterious man said, actually, what you need to do is very simple. I initially didn't know how to open this door, but when you opened the secret compartment using your blood in the scripture depository, that gave me inspiration that perhaps the item which Bai Liu Feng left behind had something to do with your bloodline that runs in your body. Earlier you used blood in the huge stone array to reveal the correct pathway. This made me further ascertain that my thinking is right. In that case, what you want is my blood. Huang Yueli's brows rose, but inside her heart, she wasn't too surprised. After the previous few experiences, she had vaguely guessed that the clues which Bai Liu Feng left behind, leaving her to this place, probably had something to do with the bloodline in her, so these clues and mechanisms practically all needed her to use her blood to open up. Only now, that these words came from the mysterious man's mouth, then she must set herself on high alert. Even if this door's mechanism really needed her to use her blood to open up, things wouldn't be that simple, and the mysterious man definitely has his own schemes. The minute she opened the door, he absolutely would destroy the bridge after crossing the river. She naturally wanted to enter the high tower, but she absolutely cannot let the mysterious man in. Don't think that the cooperation which they were talking about now, the both of them knew clearly that there was only one person who could live till the end. As for now, she was at an absolute disadvantage. Not only did her ability lack far, far away from the mysterious man, furthermore even the map which Bai Liu Feng left behind was in the hands of the mysterious man. The understanding that this mysterious man had regarding this early historical remains was much higher than hers. Under these two overlaying circumstances, the possibility of her win was equivalent to zero. Furthermore, she had already delayed for a long period of time, so she probably wouldn't be able to continue dragging any more time. The mysterious man had not kept coercing her, was afraid that she might self-explode on the spot. If he could ascertain that she was not going to cooperate, then he would definitely take action without any hesitation. The situation was now so critical, but in Huang Yueli's heart, she was becoming calmer and calmer as thoughts flew past swiftly in her mind. You can also listen on. She must find a way to turn the tide around. Not only must she not die, she must also obtain the item which Bai Liu Feng wanted her to have. Suddenly, a light bulb lit up in Huang Yueli's head which made her eyes turn bright. This idea, although extremely risky, but there was a 90% chance that she might die under the mysterious man's hands, but at least there was a string of hope. This was her only chance. Celestial Light Sect. Early in the morning, the sect entrance at the main gate was filled with people. They heard that their young sect master Li Moying, who had left the sect for a long time, was about to come back, and quite a number of people specially came out to welcome him back. That included sect master Murongde, who personally graced this occasion. A huge flying ship gradually appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Not long after, Li Moying's silhouette appeared before the eyes of everyone. His reputation in Celestial Light Sect was very high, even surpassing Sect Master by a huge notch, so when he appeared, the crowd started to outdo each other in cheering. Young Sect Master, you're finally back. Young Sect Master must have gained quite an amount of rewards in this experience, right? Everyone started to step upwards to greet him. However, Li Moying put on a chilly handsome face and didn't bother about anyone as he directly walked past the crowd. That perfectly contoured good-looking face was coated with a layer of frost as his lips pursed tightly, and a shocking bitter feeling was emitted from his surroundings. Those standing around him immediately felt their temperature drop, and they all started to shiver, not daring to say any more words as they automatically opened up a pathway for him to walk. Murongde walked towards him from a distance away, and upon seeing Li Moying, he started to smile passionately. Moying, you actually came back today, that's great. A few days ago, I heard that your illness acted up in the middle of the night. It almost scared me to death. Luckily your condition was in control later on. Li Moying looked at his own master, and his footsteps halted as he indifferently nodded. Thank you, master, for your concern. Murongde continued, looking at you, it seems that your recovery this round went rather well. In the past, every time after your illness acted up, you'd need to lie down in bed for several days, but today it seems that your condition is quite well. Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Li Moying heard about him mentioning his illness, and a pain shot through his heart. He had not been bedridden this round was entirely because Leah was by his side. Only the man in her heart was not him, so she cannot stay by his side forever. In future, if his illness acted up, he would have to face it by himself. Li Moying's eyes revealed a deep sense of hurt, and momentarily he lost all patience to exchange conventional greetings with Murongde. He hurriedly found an excuse. Master, I'm a bit tired. Although this round I had regained consciousness much earlier than before, but my primordial spirit had suffered some damage, so I must quickly return back and go into closed-door cultivation to treat my injuries. When Murongde heard that, he immediately got worried and said, how could such a thing happen? Quickly go back and take a rest. Your body is most important, and you must not leave any hidden injuries which might cause any influence to your cultivation. Master has some high-leveled medicinal pills for treating internal injuries, and the sect's medical herb garden had just received the 5th-grade medicinal herb. I'll send all these to you later. This disciple of his was an invaluable treasure in Celestial Light Sect. In future, whether Celestial Light Sect were to fly high into the sky, everything would all depend on him. On hearing Li Moying say that he had suffered internal injuries, Murongde was more anxious than anyone else. Li Moying calmly nodded, thank you, master, very much. He turned around and walked away, and all the practitioners behind all broke out into a bustle. You can also listen on. Young sect master is actually hurt. Who on earth could possibly injure a peerless genius like young sect master? That's hard to say. Although young sect master is an all-rounder talent, but he is after all very young, and there are so many established peerless experts in Soaring Heaven's continent. Regarding the news on Li Moying's soul detachment illness, this to the ordinary disciples of the sect was a secret, so they could only guess secretly. Just as the crowd was in discussions, suddenly another figure appeared in front of them. That person was Murong Fei, who appeared pale and extremely haggard. Ah, it's eldest young miss. Eldest young miss actually came back with young sect master. I'd never imagined that both of them took the same flying ship back. Could it be that young sect master and eldest young miss actually went to experience training together? I think that's about right. Hadn't sect master always wanted young sect master and eldest young miss to get married? Both of them were childhood friends, and from the looks of now, their relationship seemed to have advanced by leaps and bounds. Seems that wedding bells are ringing quite soon. The disciples' eyes revealed ambiguous and envious expressions. Murong Fei, a beauty with exceeding innate talent and with her valuable status, which disciple wasn't interested in her? But too bad she had already been acquiescence as Li Moying's fiancée, so the others didn't even dare to compete for her. When Murong De saw his eldest daughter appearing, he too was stunned. Feia, didn't you say you're going out to gain experience? Why did you return so quickly? Furthermore, you took the same flying ship as Li Moying? Murong Fei had been confined to her room for an entire day, and when she got off the flying ship, she was initially filled with indignance, but upon hearing the crowd's discussion, she suddenly realized that this seemed to be her chance. Anyway, Li Moying had already ditched that wretched lass, and now that he was feeling downhearted, it was her best opportunity to avail herself to get in. If everyone in the sect thought that the both of them were together, perhaps it might make her father set down their marriage agreement. Then in no time, perhaps Li Moying might really forget about that wretched lass and become a pair with her. Anyway, that wretched lass would definitely be dead meat this time round, so she wasn't afraid that she would come out and disrupt her plans. Thinking of this, Murong Fei's face revealed a tinge of embarrassed smile as she lowered her head and said softly, "Father, since you've already seen everything, then why are you asking me for?" Murong De's eyes widened as he was filled with shock and joy. "Why? You and Moying, could it be? But in the past, wasn't there a young lass beside Moying? That time Moying went to save her and almost couldn't make it in time for the tournament." Murong Fei replied, "Eldest senior brother and that young lass had already split up, so Murong De was very surprised because Li Moying had thought highly of that little fiancé of his. Just one look and one would know that it was a life and death true love, but why did they split up after this period of time? But towards such a result, he was actually much happier with this. Because only in this way would he be able to make Li Moying turn into his son-in-law and made him stay in Celestial Light Sect forever. Unfortunately, Li Moying had not been interested in Murong Fei, so no matter how he tried to play matchmaker to the both of them, there was no effect at all. He'd never thought that after he had given up, Murong Fei had used her own charm to let Li Moying bring her alongside him. Murong De laughed. Good, good. Since Li Moying is willing to be together with you, then you must take good care of him. He suffered an internal injury this round, so you must aid him in recovering. You can also listen on." Murong Fei puffed herself up as she agreed without any hesitation. After she left, the crowd went into another round of discussion as all of them were extremely envious, all thinking that young sect master and eldest young Mrs. wedding should be nearing. Li Moying had left swiftly and had not seen the performance which Murong Fei put up. But those shadow guards who were carrying luggage saw the entire scene. Mo immediately put up a puking expression. "I'm simply going to throw up. I've never seen such a shameless woman before. Our master had not even looked her straight in the eye. Just look at her act. She made everyone thought that she will be marrying master tomorrow." Mo Yi hurriedly covered his mouth. "What nonsense are you sprouting? Be careful that other people heard what you said. Just let her go squander by herself. Anyway, just based on her, master would never ever be interested in her." Moa nodded as he recalled Li Moying's lost soul look as he couldn't help but sigh. Third Miss Bai and master are still the most compatible. It's just a waste. Why did the two of them quarrel to such an extent of splitting up? Mo Yi wasn't as pessimistic as he patted his shoulders. No matter, don't worry. From what I see, Master and Third Miss just had a squabble. Don't think that Master is usually so mighty and awe-inspiring, but he's only just 20 years old, so I think he probably acted in a moment of rashness. After his anger had gone past, there is still a chance to reunite. Mo sighed, I hope so. In front of the high tower. How? Haven't considered properly? I'm warning you, there is a limit to my patience, whether it's to die now or cooperate. I want to hear your answer right now. The mysterious man saw Huang Yueli lowering her head and not saying a single word as he finally lost patience and started urging. Huang Yueli set down her determination as she raised her head and said, All right then, since I don't really have much of a choice, I shall cooperate with you, but you must keep your promise. After entering the high tower, you must share the treasure with me. Of course. Since you've helped me, how can I mistreat you? The mysterious man's lips curled into an icy smile as the black veil which drooped down from the hoodie sheltered his looks, not allowing anyone to see through clearly. Huang Yueli pretended to hesitate and spoke out again, No way, an oral agreement is not binding. To prove your sincerity, you must take off your hoodie and show me who you really are. I know you must be someone whom I know. The mysterious man decisively rejected. No way, Huang Yueli immediately said, You can't do it. Since we are going to cooperate, you can't even let me see your real looks, so how can I believe that you're not lying to me? Forget it, I better not cooperate with you. Anyway, if you want to kill me, I'll just self-explode. Then you won't be able to gain any advantages. The mysterious man was so angry that he clenched his teeth, but after rearranging his thoughts, after he finished using her, this young lass was going to die anyway. So letting a dead person saw his real identity wasn't that big of a deal. All right then. He changed his mind and stretched out his hand to remove the hoodie from his head. On seeing the mysterious man's real identity, Huang Yueli shrieked, So it's you. The mysterious man was actually someone whom she had met, but not very familiar, Celestial Light Academy's vice principal Ling Wenbin, but he had always used a special pill to change his voice, which made Huang Yueli unable to predict who he really was. No wonder, he could freely enter and leave the scripture depository because of his status as Celestial Light Academy's vice principal. His understanding of the scripture depository was much more than anyone else. You can also listen on. Furthermore, in the academy, he could easily mask his own identity, possibly even using ordinary students to trace her whereabouts. Ling Wenbin laughed evilly, That's right, it's me. Now that you've seen who I am, that proved that I am sincere enough, right? Then shall we start now? Huang Yueli cried out. Wait. Ling Wenbin angrily replied, What's up now? I've already agreed to so many conditions, so stop thinking of delaying some more time. Huang Yueli hurriedly replied, I'm not trying to delay, but since you want to ask me to open the door, at least pass me that treasure map to take a look. Otherwise, how am I supposed to open the mechanism? Surely I cannot just splash my blood on the door casually, then it'd open up, right? Ling Wenbin said, You don't need to look, I will tell you what the treasure map says. His alertness was rather strong, and even though he knows that other than self-exploding, Huang Yueli was not able to come out with any other tricks, but still he couldn't bear to take out the treasure map, feeling that hiding it in his space would be the safest. But Huang Yueli's motive was to make him bring out the treasure map, so how would she allow him to deceive her? She spoke again, Are you sure you know what the treasure map is writing? If you understand what it was about, then you won't take so long to open this door. No matter what, I'm an armament master, so regarding mechanisms, I know more about it than you. It will be much safer for me to take a look first before opening the door. Ling Wenbin kept a straight face. Stop all these nonsense and do according to what I tell you to. Quickly walk over there and stand on the right side in front of the door frame. Huang Yueli saw that he wasn't tricked, so could only follow his instructions and walked towards the front of the bronze door. Good, now see the leaf-shaped notch on the door frame? Now cut open your wrist and drip your blood on top of it. Huang Yueli complied as she placed her hand on the position which he pointed to. The two of them opened their eyes wide as they stared at the bronze door. Blood flowed out from Huang Yueli's wrist and dripped onto the notch as it followed the complicated and intricate carving pattern on the bronze door and slowly flowed along, bit by bit, filling up all the chinks. On the door, that lively phoenix beast had, at this moment, enveloped with a layer of red color, resembling the colors of a scorching flame, making it look realistic, as though the next second, it would turn into a physical form, flying up into the sky. As the blood flowed, Ling Wenbin's eyes were practically stuck on the door as his breathing became hasty, apparently extremely agitated. Ever since he discovered by Liu Feng's secret compartment, he spent several years' time before he found an 8th-tier armament master, forking out a heavenly price before letting him agree to activate the secret compartment, and after retrieving the secret compartment, he spent another 5 years researching on how to move past the huge stone array and how to open this bronze door. After waiting for such a long wait, now, finally it's time he could see the results. How could he possibly not be agitated and not anxious? However, as time went by, Huang Yueli's blood had filled all the chinks in the bronze door, but yet the door did not open. Ling Wenbin waited and waited, and after he realized that the door really didn't open up, his expression turned ugly. "What's the matter? Are you playing any tricks?" Huang Yueli's expression on her face was super innocent as she could be. "Principal Ling, this is a major injustice. Look, all my actions are done according to your requests and none of it had been done wrongly. But the door just wouldn't open, so how could you blame it on me? You can also listen on." Ling Wenbin thought so too. Huang Yueli's performance earlier had been too obedient and too compliant. She had been standing there acting according to his request to let her blood flow. She had not been doing anything funny at all. Then, why wouldn't this door open? Ling Wenbin frowned, but after thinking for some time, he wasn't able to find any leads. Out of desperation, he could only retrieve the treasure map from his realm ring, and raising it against the light, he started studying it carefully. As he was reading it, he mumbled non-stop, "Weird. This lass had totally followed according to what the treasure map requested. As long as her blood filled up the entire door frame, the phoenix in the middle livens up, then this door will be opened. Why is it that it's not opening now?" Huang Yueli was still standing in front of the door as she started shouting. "Hey, old man Ling, have you read properly yet or not? Can you hurry up? Don't tell me your age is catching up and your eyes can't see clearly." Ling Wenbin originally was feeling depressed because the door wouldn't open, and after being relentlessly ridiculed by her, above the depression was a stuffed feeling as the expression on his face turned even uglier. He turned around and lectured, "Wretched lass, shut up. Can't you tell that I'm already reading it? Urge, what's there to urge about?" Huang Yueli looked as though she was about to faint as she replied breathlessly, Of course I need to urge. You're just there reading the map, which is an easy job, but here I am losing blood. You know how much blood I've lost in order to fill so many carvings? I feel that I've lost too much blood and I feel very cold now. My head feels dizzy as though I'm about to lose consciousness anytime now. You, as a practitioner, how could you be so weak?" Ling Wenbin replied in a bad mood. Huang Yueli's feet shuffled and swayed, and just as she was about to fall down, she hurriedly put out her other left hand, which had not been cut, as she held onto the wall, steadying herself. So dizzy. I really cannot take it anymore. If you don't tell me clearly how to open this door, after I die from excessive blood loss, then you can search for another person to open this door for you." Ling Wenbin's expression grew darker still, but he could tell that Huang Yueli seemed as though she really couldn't make it any longer. If this wretched lass were to really died, where on earth was he going to find another person to release blood and open this door? "Then, why don't you tell me what to do?" Ling Wenbin started to become anxious. Huang Yueli said, "Why not you show me that treasure map? I've already told you this earlier, you're not an armament master, so regarding mechanisms, you might not be able to tell." At this juncture, Ling Wenbin had no other way, on thinking that Huang Yueli was indeed a real talented armament master, so he nodded his head, "All right, I'll let you take a look." He walked towards Huang Yueli and raised the map to show her from afar. Huang Yueli frowned as she looked and mumbled to herself, "Well, there's really a problem. Old man Ling, what you say isn't right at all. This place should. Why can't I see it clearly? Can you bring it nearer a little bit more?" Ling Wenbin walked closer a little, but Huang Yueli still expressed that she couldn't see clearly. Ling Wenbin finally lost patience and directly placed the treasure map in front of her eyes. "All right, this should be near enough." Such a young age and your eyes can't even match up to an old man like me? He, this is so embarrassing. Let me take a careful look. Huang Yueli lowered her head. Ling Wenbin looked at the four surroundings in apprehension. Suddenly he felt something being pulled from his hands. You can also listen on. Huang Yue actually grabbed the treasure map from his hands and upon using strength, she easily took it away from him. What are you doing? Before his question was finished, suddenly a scorching flame came burning from his back area, so hot that he started screeching out loud. Ah! Who tries to sneak an attack on me from behind? Ling Wenbin turned his head around to capture the mastermind, but whoever knew that the minute he turned around, a sharp-pointed prick-like thing pierced deeply into his left eye. At that instant, an intense pain was felt from his eye and at the same time, his vision turned blood red. Ah! My eye, my eye. Ling Wenbin covered his eye as he started hollering loudly. Huang Yueli gave a shocked but joyous expression as she praised, "Well done, Wang Cai." When Ling Wenbin suddenly appeared, after Little Phoenix whined a warning, it had following Huang Yueli's request and found a corner to hide. Ling Wenbin's attention was focused on Huang Yueli entirely. Although he felt that it was strange to hear a bird chirping, but he didn't give much thought to it as he thought it was due to his own hallucination. After Huang Yueli had Little Phoenix laid in ambush and made all preparations, she then lured Ling Wenbin to bring out the treasure map, and after that, catching him unaware, he snatched the treasure map and arranged for Little Phoenix to sneak an attack to distract his attention. At least to drag a couple of breaths. She had not expected Little Phoenix to complete this mission, even much better than she had thought. After this little fellow advanced, its attack power had indeed raised an entire level and its speed had already increased by several times. Even a 7th stage realm top expert like Ling Wenbin was caught unaware and actually fell for its trap, and in the process got seriously injured by it. Hearing Ling Wenbin's blood-curdling screams, and seeing the blood flowing out from the seams of his fingers which was covering his face, Huang Yueli felt a tinge of pain for him. Little Phoenix's peck was not ordinarily sharp, usually even the toughest armament refining ingredients were bitten into bit in an instant, what more a physical body? She gauged that Ling Wenbin's eye was destined to be disabled. Wang Cai heard Huang Yueli's praises and delightfully patted his wings as it was just about to cry out. But it heard Huang Yueli call out hastily, "Quick, quick, quick. Come over quickly. We don't have any time to waste. If he reacts in time then we're finished." Saying that, her wrist once again pressed against the left door frame's notch and simultaneously her left hand's fingers drew a circle in the air as she struck out some hand gestures. VVR. Following that was the ringing of a gloomy sound as the bronze door gradually moved upwards, revealing the entrance of the high tower. Without hesitation, Huang Yueli leapt outwards and ran in. Little Phoenix tried hard as it flapped its wings as it followed her. After Huang Yueli entered the door, she immediately ran towards the mechanism by the side of the door as she struck out some hand gestures and the bronze door stopped moving upwards and instead it started to move downwards as it gradually shut itself. Just at this moment, Ling Wenbin suddenly stopped his miserable cries and tried his hardest to ensure that pain. He heard the sound of the bronze door being opened and this was something which he had been waiting for so many years. So at that moment, he forgot about the pain in his eye as one thought filled his mind, and that was he must absolutely enter the high tower. "By Ruoli, you wretched lass, how dare you plot against me? Open up the door, I want to go in." As he hollered, he didn't dare to waste any time as he swiftly charged towards the bottom part of the bronze door. The speed of the door closing wasn't considered very fast and although it had already closed by half, but if he were to lower his waist and his head he would still be able to barely pass through it. You can also listen on. When Huang Yueli saw that, she cried out, "Wang Cai, quick, chase him out of here." Simultaneously, she gathered all the profound qi she had in her body and drawing a line with her fingers in mid-air, a deviant flame appeared and utilizing her profound skill, she directed her attack towards Ling Wenbin. Little Phoenix also worked up its little tummy and blew out a puff of advanced orange-colored true phoenix fire. One human and one bird unreserved attack landed on Ling Wenbin at the same time and he was struck instantly as he moaned dully and almost threw up blood. But even so, his advancement speed had not halted. He had totally given up on defense, allowing Hwang Yueli's attack to waywardly land on him because now, his only aim was to squeeze into the high tower before the bronze door closed up. Even if he was seriously injured by Hwang Yueli, it didn't matter. Anyway, as long as he was able to enter the high tower, with that wretched lass's bit of cultivation, wouldn't she be at his mercy? By then, he would be able to take his revenge and vent his anger. However, Hwang Yueli and Little Phoenix used all their ability because at this moment, it was a life-and-death situation. Hwang Yueli didn't dare to hide or conceal herself as she retrieved an ancient zither from the Sky Phoenix ring. This zither was the icy jade zither which Li Moying gave her several months ago during the banquet in South Yu Kingdom. After Hwang Yueli got this zither, and collecting several materials, she spent quite an amount of effort to refine it into a 5th-grade profound armament. But as she was the only 9th-stage realm expert who used an ancient zither in her previous life in the entire Soaring Heavens continent, as a weapon, so in order to prevent her identity from being exposed, she wasn't willing to use her zither before this. But now at this moment, if she didn't use her ultimate strike, in future she might not have any chance to use it. Hwang Yueli turned the direction of the zither as she hugged it in her embrace while the other 5 fingers had already started brushing on the zither cord. Zheng, when the first zither sound rang, Ling Wenbin's action had obviously slowed down for a moment. When he saw Hwang Yueli battled halfway and suddenly taking out an ancient zither, he thought something had gone wrong with her and was prepared to rush into the tower to mock at her. In the end, when the zither rang, his mind suddenly buzzed for a moment as though he suffered a heavy pound on his brain. What are you playing at? That zither. Ling Wenbin's consciousness suddenly became blurry, but as he was a 7th-stage realm practitioner, his mental power was rather strong, so he quickly recovered from it. Making prompt decision, he immediately gauged that something was wrong with that zither in Hwang Yueli's hands as he pounced towards her, attempting to snatch it away. However, Hwang Yueli calmly and unhurriedly turned around as her fingers continued to play the zither. Zheng 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 zheng, the zither notes were as though a violent storm reigned in the silent high tower. Ling Wenbin's head felt dizzy once again, and every single time when he finally managed to recover his senses, he was thrown into dizziness once again. Actually, Ling Wenbin's mental power was much stronger than Hwang Yueli's, and if he had been prepared earlier, under the circumstances of his full power defense, the harm which Hwang Yueli's zither notes would be limited to a certain degree. But unfortunately, he had never in his wildest dreams thought that Hwang Yueli actually used an ancient zither as a weapon. There was just a handful of practitioners who specialized in mental power attacks in Soaring Heavens continent, and without a trace of defense preparation, he had been completely caught unaware. At the same time, Little Phoenix continued blowing its flame at him and had already burnt most of the skin on his body, causing half of his body to be in a charred state, looking extremely horrendous. You can also listen on. Both zither sound and attack hastily fell upon him as Ling Wenbin was blocked outside the door. The bronze door gradually descended and finally it was left with merely half a meter of opening. Upon seeing that he was going to be shut outside, Ling Wenbin suddenly regained his senses and instantly, all his potential exploded from within. He fiercely hollered as both palms struck out forward. His entire body's profound chi were instilled in this move alone. A 7th-stage realm cultivator's strongest profound skill was no small matter, and after the bronze door suffered such a heavy attack, the speed of descent actually slowed down slightly. Ling Wenbin hurriedly put one leg inside, thinking to make use of this last chance to squeeze through from the door slit below. However, Hwang Yueli had also utilized her killer move. She turned the direction of the icy jade zither as her fingers started plucking, and the zither sound suddenly changed a key as it became murderous sounding. At the same time, she drew out a silvery white, foot-long short sword from the zither body and lit up the sword blade with flame as she pierced it towards Ling Wenbin's right leg. Ah! A miserable shriek was heard and Hwang Yueli's short sword had already struck Ling Wenbin's right leg. 7th-stage realm cultivator's body wasn't easily injured, but Hwang Yueli had used the zither sound to attack and inflict injury onto him, and with Little Phoenix's total coordination, she managed to piece through Ling Wenbin's calf totally with just one strike. At this moment, the distance of the bronze door was just 2 inches away from the ground. Ling Wenbin knew that he had lost his last chance and there was no way he could enter this place again, as he couldn't help but started to tell, "Wretched lass, you sinister and treacherous wretched lass, How dare you set me up in this way? Hide in the tower for your entire life if you dare and don't come out, because if you do, I will absolutely let you die without any burial ground. Huang Yueli waved her hand at him as she replied lazily, if you had such an ability, then I can only say that's my fate. But unfortunately, the one who always gained the advantages seems to be me. Old fart, goodbye, slowly wait outside. Ling Wenbin was so angry that he threw up blood wildly on the spot. However, what was more tragic was right behind. As his right leg had already extended into the inner part of the high tower, Ling Wenbin had wanted to take advantage of the last chance before the bronze door closed up to withdraw his leg. But he had just used some strength before he discovered that his right leg had already lost all senses. He was unable to withdraw it at all. He immediately realized what had happened. It was definitely one of Huang Yueli's tricks. That wretched lassie's sword earlier, although it could not cut off his leg, but it was aimed at numbing his meridians. Damn it! Door, don't close, don't close. Give me a few breaths' time. Ling Wenbin was in so much dismay that his entire body was drenched in sweat. He used his hand to pull his own leg, thinking to withdraw it. But alas, it was too late. No one could stop the trend of the bronze door closing, and finally, it heavily expelled his right leg. A terror-stricken, furious and desperate miserable shriek echoed into Huang Yueli's ears, but very quickly, it was blocked out by that great bronze door on the outside as she couldn't hear anything else. Huang Yueli finally heaved a long sigh. Finally, we have gotten rid of this old fart, it's just too dangerous this time round. Luckily I was resourceful enough. Says who? You were able to escape was totally because of this young master's clever and quick-wittedness, martial and heroic, super powerful ability, handsome and suave. Little Phoenix was chattering non-stop as it tried its hardest to plaster gold onto its face. You can also listen on. After it finished, it didn't forget to raise its request. Since I've contributed such a huge merit, then for all future chicken drumsticks, can I have a double portion? Huang Yueli's brows twitched. You're already so fat and still want to eat a double portion? Your double chin already has 3 layers of fats, do you know that? What? Fat? Where am I fat? Little Phoenix retorted angrily as it pounced in front of Huang Yueli, wanting her to clarify clearly. Just at this moment, Huang Yueli's body suddenly leaned closely onto the wall as she gradually slid downwards, and subsequently, she fell sideways as though she had fainted. When Little Phoenix saw this, it was so shocked that it started screeching, "Hey, I say! Female devil, what's the matter with you? Quickly wake up. Why did you suddenly faint? Where do you feel uncomfortable? Have you suffered a serious injury? Finished. Female devil is going to die. I'm going to be shut into the Sky Phoenix ring once again. What can I do? What should I do?" Little Phoenix was so anxious that it kept turning round in circles, and it started flying here and there in the inner portion of the high tower, making a big fuss at the same time. Huang Yueli leaned against the side of the wall and her consciously was a little blurry, but Little Phoenix's sharp screeching calls seemed to be like a demonic sound as it dove straight into the brain, causing her to have a bout of headaches. Actually, it was normal for her to faint. Earlier when she was outside the bronze door, she was coerced by Ling Wenbin to use her blood to open the door, and she had released quite an amount of blood. In actual fact, she didn't need to come out with so much blood, but in order to drag some time, to coax Ling Wenbin into bringing out the treasure map, she intentionally blocked a chink, stopping the blood from flowing into it. In this way, the door remained closed and her blood kept flowing. It was much later when she really felt her entire body turn cold from too much blood loss and her head became groggy, so she wasn't cheating Ling Wenbin at all. Under that kind of circumstances, she still depleted all her profound energy to stop Ling Wenbin from entering the high tower. Especially at the last part where she used the icy jade zither, displaying her killer move, a profound skill which she grasped in her past life when she was in 9th stage realm. The consumption on mental power was extremely huge, and to a 3rd stage realm peak cultivator like her now, was a huge expense which she could not bear. It was the combination of several elements that she could last till now before fainting, and this was already a miracle. For her now, in order to rest properly, borrowing the high tower's inner portion's high-intensity heaven and earth profound chi to restore her body's injuries, which was the best option. Silence. was extremely important. But unfortunately, the little phoenix which she reared always acted out of the book, and it actually flew everywhere, crying to an earth-shaking point, making so much noise that she couldn't rest at all. For that one instance, Huang Yueli really wanted to stuff that little thing back into the sky phoenix ring, but she didn't have that much mental power to control little phoenix. She tolerated and bore with it, and after a long time later, little phoenix probably got tired from crying out and started to become silent. Huang Yueli finally drifted off into a deep sleep. Unknowingly, 3 days went by. Celestial Light Sect was filled with jubilation. Ever since Murong Fei returned to the sect and indicated that she had spent an amount of time together with Li Moying, many people felt that she was going to get married to Li Moying. Even Murong De believed that deeply and kept encouraging her to take good care of Li Moying, grabbing this peerless expert's heart tightly, to make him stay in Celestial Light Sect. Murong Fei felt guilty, but at the same time she set her determination to double her efforts to display her virtuous and elegant look in front of Li Moying. You can also listen on. She wanted to show a stark contrast against Huang Yueli, that immature and inexperienced, willful and proud lass, letting Li Moying knew that only a mature and elegant refined lady like her was worthy of her. Hence, whenever she had time, she would bring the medicinal soup and herbs that she made to the rear mountains courtyard where Li Moying was staying. However, no matter how diligent Murong Fei was, Li Moying refused to meet her even once. The person who appeared in front of her was always the expressionless Mo Yi, or Mo who spoke in an eccentric tone, and either one of them could make her die of anger. Li Moying was in fact totally unaware of how bustling it was outside. Ever since he returned to Celestial Light Sect, he shut himself in his courtyard and went into closed-door cultivation. Breaking up with Leah had made his world turn grey, and no matter what he did, he wasn't able to lift his spirits up. The images of Huang Yueli's usual expression while she was with him kept popping out in his mind, and every single time he thought of the cunning look with her pointed teeth when she laughed, his heart felt a pang of throbbing pain. Under this circumstance, only cultivation could make him forget this kind of pain momentarily. So every day he refused to meet anyone and chose to shut himself in his courtyard to cultivate. Even his shadow guards had not seen him for 3 days already. Today, a figure shot from the front mountain towards the rear mountain, but even after he reached Li Moying's courtyard, his footsteps didn't stop and continued to rush inside while shouting, "Young sect master, something's up, something bad has happened." Mo Yi frowned as he went up to welcome that person. Who is it who dares to barge into young sect master's closed-door cultivation location? Saying that, he took a look and immediately recognized that person, Principal Jiang. "Why have you come here?" Jiang Tuxin panted heavily as he clutched his chest, and his head full of white hair was all drenched with sweat, and he was gasping for his breath as he said, "Protector. Mo, where is young sect master? I have an important news that I need to tell him right now." Mo Yi replied, "Principal Jiang, you came at the wrong time. Ever since master returned to the sect, he announced that he was going into closed-door cultivation and he would take at least 3 to 5 months before his out. Oh no, what should I do? I'm really worried. Something happened to Bai Ruoli." Jiang Tuxin's brows creased as he looked completely at a loss. When Moa heard that name, he immediately got excited as he rushed forward their faces. "Principal Jiang, you say? You're worried something has happened to third Miss Bai? What's the matter with her?" Jiang Tuxin heaved a sigh and said, "You don't know, ever since the day young sect master and eldest young miss left Celestial Light Academy, Bai Ruoli also disappear. Young sect master had repeatedly urged me to take good care of Miss Bai before he left, so I would send someone to take a look at her 3 days ago, only to discover that she had already been missing for several days. Furthermore, the day she left the academy was the next day after you all left." "What?" Mo Yi and Mo exchanged glances as they saw the pleasantly surprised expression in each other's eyes. Mo Yi gave a cough and said, "Principal Jiang, you need not be overly worried, I'm guessing. Third Miss should be chasing after my master." Although both of them quarreled, but their feelings remain the same, so this is very normal. Third Miss's cultivation isn't very high and she doesn't have access to a flying ship, so for her to come over to Celestial Light Sect, she's at least need 5 to 6 days time, so probably she's still on the way here. Moa also chipped in, "Isn't that due?" Master is almost going crazy from the things he does for third miss. He will definitely be very happy when he hears about this news. I will go and report this to Master right now. You can also listen on. The two of them spun around to pass the information. Jiang Tuxin hurriedly called out to stop them. Please wait a moment, both of you. Mo Yi and Mo turned back as they looked at him puzzledly. Jiang Yusin hurriedly said, things are not what you think it is. Bai Ruoli had likely gotten into trouble. What? Both of them cried out in shock as their expressions were filled with astonishment. Mo Yi was in a rush to ask what had happened clearly, but before he could even speak, the courtyard door was suddenly opened from the inside. You say, what happened to Leah? A deep, hoarse voice was heard from behind the trio. The three of them were shocked as they were startled at Li Moying's sudden appearance. Master, why are you out? My respects to Master. Mo Yi and Mo made their salutations one after another, whereas Jiang Tuxin went into a daze as he looked in astonishment at the man in front of him. If it hadn't been for the fact that he recognized his voice and with Mo Yi and Mo by the side as a witness, he almost couldn't recognize that the slovenly dressed and absent-minded man, who was usually suave and pillously handsome, was the young sect master Li Moyi. Li Moying's face was exceptionally pale and his hair was scattered messily by the side of his face. There were black patches under his eyes, but even though he seemed to be in a despondent state, he still bore the usual indescribable overbearing imposing manner which was enough to attract any woman's gaze. Young sect master, Li Moying walked over and stood in front of Jiang Tuxin as a cold glint flashed past his eyes. What did you say earlier? Leah, something happened to her? What exactly happened to her? Before I left, haven't I asked you to take good care of her? How long has it been only and something had happened to her? Tell me clearly right now. Mo Yi looked at Li Moying's agitated look and amidst worries, there were also some signs of emotion. Master still denied that the both of them had no more relationship and didn't even look back as he ran back to Celestial Light Sect. In the end, just based on his reaction, if he could really let go of third miss, something really was wrong. Jiang Tuxin continued ashamedly, I have let you down. That day after you left, I'd sent a number of people to take care of Miss Bai, but she said she wanted to go into closed-door cultivation to recuperate and shut everyone outside, whereas she slipped away. I'd only discovered this 2 days ago and thought she came to look for you in Celestial Light Sect, so I sent a few bodyguards, thinking to chase up to her and send her here. But the bodyguards followed the path here and searched for a long time, but they weren't able to find anyone at all. Instead, they heard a rumor. What rumor? Li Moying's voice was extremely peaceful, but those who knew him well knew clearly that he was the kind whom would become more and more calm as he got angrier, and now he was already on the verge of acting up. Jiang Tuxin's sweat drenched his entire back, but he didn't dare to raise his head. Yes. A group of Jade Wind Merchant Guild merchants were on the way to West Sky region to do some business, and someone said that a few days ago, they met a young lady who was around 14 or 15. From their description, she sounds very similar to Miss Bai, and that young lady wanted to follow them to Celestial Light Sect, but midway on the road here, a mysterious man dressed in a hood suddenly appeared, pointing her out. That young lady didn't want to implicate them, so she immediately appeared and lured the mysterious man away. Mysterious man? Li Moying's brows knitted tightly together. Jiang Tuxin nodded. I heard that this mysterious man's cultivation is very high and that young lady totally wasn't his match, so she kept escaping. Later on, the both of them disappeared and even the Merchant Guild didn't know where they went to. You can also listen on. In actual fact, the Merchant Guild leader's original words were not sure if that young lady was dead or alive, but Jiang Tuxin was afraid that it might agitate Li Moying once again, so he could only change it to whereabouts unknown. But even so, Li Moying had already gone mad. With a casual flick of his sleeve, a powerful profound chi struck out in midair. All of a sudden, lightning filled the skies. That plot of land which cultivated several thousand-year-old silver leaf spiritual trees were all snapped off across the middle, in complete disorder. Jiang Tuxin, Mo Yi, and Moa hurriedly stepped aside, and although Li Moying had evaded their direction, but it still made their chests tremble greatly as they almost spat out blood on the spot. Jiang Tuxin clutched his chest, On one hand he was startled by Li Moying's exceptional potential, while on the other hand, he was silently crying out in shock by his intense reaction. Even after Li Moying struck, the melancholic feeling on his chest did not decrease in any way. The moment he thought his Leah had suffered a top expert's interception, and her life and death was totally unknown, his heart was thrown into incomparable pain. At the same time, he was extremely remorseful. If only he hadn't left Leah's side, she wouldn't have set off alone to look for him in Celestial Light Sect, and such a thing wouldn't have happened. At this point in time, he even started to hate himself. Even if Leah didn't like him forever, why couldn't he continue to protect her silently? Why did he let Leah get hurt just because of his pride? Li Moying gritted his teeth as his 2 hands clenched into fists, his 10 fingers totally sinking into his palms as his blood started to drip. He managed to control his anger and didn't make another move, but he took quick steps as he flew towards the front mountain. While he was walking, he sent out his commands to the few of them. Mo Yi, immediately arrange for people to search along the path between Celestial Light Academy and Celestial Light Sect, not missing out even an inch. Even if they have to dig underground 3 feet, they must find Leah and the person who hurt her. Yes. Mo lead a team and ask around the neighboring cities, towns, and villages. If Leah managed to escape, in order to prevent her identity from being exposed, she would definitely find a place and hide herself. Yes. Jiang Tuxin, I'm here. Jiang Tuxin subconsciously shuddered because he had obviously heard Li Moying silent, grinding his teeth when he called out his name. Li Moying said, quickly return back to Celestial Light Academy and run through a checklist on all the practitioners in the academy who are in 7th stage realm and above, to find out who is the troublemaker. Jiang Tuxin was stunned. Ah? Li Moying's voice grew doleful. Earlier in Celestial Light Academy, Leah was attacked by a masked 7th stage realm practitioner. Luckily I managed to save her in time, but I was unable to capture that person. I reckon that the person who attacked Leah this time is him. This person is definitely related to Celestial Light Academy, so you must dig this person out. Yes, I understand. Jiang Tuxin started to sweat profusely. If Huang Yueli was really dead and the murderer was in Celestial Light Academy, then his position as principal would most likely be difficult to retain. Inside the high tower, Huang Yueli was having a dizzy spell as she didn't know how long she had been in deep sleep for. When she awoke, she felt her entire body feeling warm, as though she was soaked in hot spring water. Furthermore, the profound qi in her body was abundant as the damages to her meridians and internal organs were completely healed. She extended her hands and feet, feeling that she was never in a better condition, and even, there seemed to be signs of a breakthrough in her cultivation. What situation is this? She murmured to herself as she frowned. You can also listen on. Female devil, you're finally awake. You simply scared me to death. Woo 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 woo. Huang Yueli was still in a daze when suddenly little Shotokan took big steps with his short legs as he pounced towards her. That chubby and flabby body jumped right into her embrace as he hugged her waist, refusing to let go. Huang Yueli was initially stunned, but later on she touched his head as she laughingly said, all right, it's all right now, aren't I just fine now? Little Phoenix was so angry that it stomped its feet. You still dare to laugh? Do you know how many days you have been in a coma for? Furthermore, your look previously was just too scary. You were covered in blood totally, and your profound energy as well as your mental power were almost depleted. Huang Yueli curiously asked, how many days have I slept for? Little Phoenix's face instantly showed an embarrassed look. About this. I also don't know. This tower doesn't seem to emit the sunlight from the outside, and there's only a fire on the wall which seemed like it doesn't extinguish. How would I know how many days has it been? Then why did he still say it in that way earlier? Huang Yueli was rather speechless. Just at this moment, suddenly a voice entered her ears. It has been 5 days since you entered the inheritance grounds. Huang Yueli was firstly stunned before screaming out in shock, who's that talking? Not too far away, a good-looking, long-haired man looked towards them from afar. Ghost. There was obviously no one here earlier. Little Phoenix trembled from head to toe after he saw him and turned around as it jumped into Huang Yueli's arms. The man slowly shook his teeth as he said helplessly, "You yourself is a spiritual body and you still dare to say that other people are ghosts." Huang Yueli had already calmed down by now. She took a look at the man's unusual good-looking face and the way he walked and the expression he put on as he talking as she sort of made some guesses in her heart. You are this high tower's guardian? So you're also a spiritual body? That's why you can suddenly appear. Huang Yueli opened her mouth to speak. That high tower's surface area, from the outside, seemed not very big and the inside was even smaller. From one end to the other end, it was merely 30 over steps distance and just one glance and one will be able to see the ending point. When she entered the high tower, she took a clear look that there was no one in this tower, so this man before their eyes was definitely not someone ordinary. When the man heard her words, he nodded. "Looks like a junior, like you have some knowledge." Huang Yueli's mouth twitched as she felt slightly unable to accept it. After all, she had lived for several decades in her past life and to be called as a junior. But changing her thoughts, the man in front of her was guarding this high tower and probably he had been here for tens of thousands of years. So as compared to him, she indeed was a junior, furthermore she was the most junior kind of junior level. But by now, Huang Yueli could tell that this man had no evil intentions towards her. Otherwise, just based on the fact that she was in lethargic sleep for so many days, if he wanted to kill her, it was an easy feat even if he was too lazy to take action. All he needed to do was to throw her out of the tower, which would also lead to her death. Thinking of this, Huang Yueli stood up as she clasped her fist into her other hand and paid her respects. "This junior is Huang Yueli. May I know your name, senior? And where is this place?" From the outside, it seems that this place is a part of an early historical remains. The man's brows rose in surprise as the expression on his face was an indescribable strange look. "You say, you don't know where this place is? How is that possible? Then how did you come in? You can also listen on." The more Huang Yueli couldn't understand, the tighter her slender brows grew. "It's like this. My father left me a piece of treasure map and he wanted me to follow the hints on the map to look for this early historical remains." The man replied, "That's right, those who knows this place are all passed down by their parents. But since your father wants you to come here, didn't he tell you what use this tower is for?" "Ah, regarding this, my father didn't say." In actual fact, Huang Yueli had no time to look at the treasure map which Bai Liu Feng left behind, so she didn't know if he left any other clues, but now that she has said like this, surely she can't retrieve the treasure map now and took a look, right? So she could only pretend till the end. The man shook his head as he said in total displeasure, "Your father is simply too irresponsible. Such an important matter and yet he didn't tell you clearly. What kind of that is he?" Huang Yueli hurriedly explained for Bai Liu Feng, "Senior, don't be mistaken. My father had been missing in an expedition since I was still at a very young age, so he didn't purposely not tell me about this." The man then responded, "No wonder. Since that's the case, towards the clan's matters, you know nothing at all." Huang Yueli was dumbstruck. "Clan?" The man didn't reply her immediately but stared at her dazed look for a while before sighing. "This is a long story. Let me self-introduce. My name is Huang Zixiao, the guardian for this inheritance grounds. As what you have seen, I am in a spiritual body state and have been living in this inheritance grounds for 80,000 over years. 80,000 years." Huang Yueli cried out in shock. She had thought that this high tower had been here since 10,000 years ago, but whoever knew that it had already been in existence since 80,000 years ago? What concept was that? Simply unbelievable. 10,000 years ago, soaring heaven's continent underwent a huge change and the past history had all disappeared, only leaving some early historical remains behind. How was it like 80,000 years ago? That was something no one had any way to find out. She discovered another strange point. "Wait a moment, your surname is also Huang? And you said, this is an inheritance ground? What inheritance ground?" Huang Zixiao laughed as he said, "You and I are all members of the Sacred Phoenix clan, so isn't the surname Huang a matter of fact? As for this place, it is the Sacred Phoenix clan's inheritance grounds." "Sacred Phoenix clan?" Huang Yueli repeated after him, not knowing why that it was supposed to be a strange name, but it seemed to tug some strings in her heart. Huang Zixiao nodded and continued, The Sacred Phoenix clan had originally been one of the strongest families in Soaring Heaven's continent. Several thousands of years ago, when Soaring Heaven's continent's profound chi was still abundant, among the entire God Realm's subsidiary 3000 continent, it was considered top-rated. We, the Sacred Phoenix clan, had always been residing in Soaring Heaven's continent, and we have given birth to numerous famed peerless geniuses in 3000 continent. Even in God Realm, we have established ourselves to be one of the 4 major families. As he reminisced about the past when the clan was at its peak, the cherished look which flashed past his eyes, with a deep gaze, as though he had returned to the past. Little Phoenix was hiding in Huang Yueli's arms originally, but when he heard this, he couldn't help but jump out. Ah! Sacred Phoenix clan, I remember now, I heard of this family before. They are famous in God Realm. Among God Realm's top 10 gods, 3 were from Sacred Phoenix clan. But what you're saying is a problem, isn't it? Such a powerful clan, how could they possibly have started from the Soaring Heavens continent? You can also listen on. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.